How did Scrooge win the football game?
How?
The ghost of Christmas past.
Great.
So bad.
That's not a great joke, Henry.
My son's come home with a book from the library from school. He's 9 years old and it's 1,000 dad jokes. So bad. He just wanders around the house. In the end, it's like, right, buddy, enough. Stop. I can't do it anymore.
Dad, here's another one.
Yeah.
What is success to you?
I think it was a learn to love it experience.
And there's always pitfalls that you can fall in, but then you've got no one else to blame but yourself.
Number one thing if you're struggling is to catch up with people about it.
Hey guys, before we kick off, I just wanted to take a quick second to say thanks to our content partners, Abodo. You probably know Abodo from their feature timbers like cladding, decking, screening, and all those beautiful timbers that make our projects look amazing. Now, on top of all that, Abodo timber is actually grown and manufactured right here in New Zealand, and it's actually verified carbon negative. Now, what the heck is carbon negative? I'm going to be honest with you, I had to Google that. Carbon negative means Abodo actually takes more carbon out of the air than it puts in. That's got to be good, right? For the environment at least. Cheers, Abodo. You guys are actually legends. Now, let's kick off this episode. Cool, man. Welcome. Better
you.
Build a Christmas special episode.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Yeah, man. Welcome back. Merry Christmas.
You too. Yeah, we're nearly there. Nearly there.
It's been a bit of a year, eh? Been a bit catching up with a lot of builders about the year that's been, and it's been pretty full on for a lot of builders. Hey, I think everyone's a bit over it now.
Yep. There's a lot of that out there. There's some tired people. Fuses are short.
Yeah, exactly. So, I thought it'd be good to get you back. You've been very popular, and we're going to go through our. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit longer this episode. We're going to do a little bit of a awards day. So we'll kind of cover through. We'll just sort of do a few awards for the year. Give a few people their flowers in terms of some good guests that came on.
Yep.
And it's good. So how you going? So you sort of almost finish off for the year, and
yeah. We've got Thursday's our last day, so tomorrow.
Yep.
And then Friday we'll have our Christmas party. Should be good. Round of golf and
love it.
Beers and should be good.
What do you guys normally do for Christmas? Like, is it quite hard to kind of figure out what to do for the boys? Because how many guys have you got now?
I got 10 guys still.
Yeah.
Same guys. We play. Everyone in the team likes golf except one guy now. He hates it, but he has to come.
He's just real shit at it.
Shit.
Yeah.
But he tries hard. But we keep telling him one day we'll take him fishing because he loves fishing. So one year we might have a fishing trip in February.
Oh, beautiful.
I find like the weather's a bit funny leading up to Christmas some years. It's a bit hit and miss. Whereas like February, I feel like February's our good time.
Yeah. February is like a lot more like good days in a row, so you can kind of plan out.
Yeah.
Now it's just a bit iffy,
Yeah, but no, definitely. Golf's always a good one. We usually bring along our Sparky and our plumber and our sort of favourite tradies.
Nice. Favourite podcaster next year for the fishing trip?
Yeah. No, we've got we do awards. We've got some awards we always hand out. We've got a shield. So we always have a sporting event. It has to be a sporting event.
Cool.
We have to eat a lot of food, obviously, and drink a lot of beer.
Yeah.
We've got a shield that we give out, and we've also got a mug. So we've got the mug, which is the mug of the year, which is usually given out to the guy who has the biggest howler for the year. So
right.
We one year we had. We're installing some pretty beautiful doors in a house that each door was worth about $4,000 each door. One of the guys just drove his drill bit right through it when he was putting the door harbour in. So that was a good one. He got the award that year. And one of the boys recently ballsed up a tile set out pretty badly and had to pop up all the tiles. And
oh no!
So he's gonna get it this year.
Yeah,
but it happens.
Happens to the best of us, eh?
Yep.
And okay, so you guys normally do like a bit of a Christmas thing this year because it was just me and Dan this year. Dan's behind the controls there. It was just me and Dan. Chen was away. A few other people were away, and then obviously a lot of the people we work with are all contractors out in Australia somewhere, in New Zealand somewhere. So it's me and Dan went for a nice little boozy lunch by ourselves.
Romantic.
Yeah, it was a bit weird, eh, Dan, for a little bit there. But no, that was fun. It's kind of good. It's when it comes up to the end of the year and you just want to get stuff done and you just want to get out of here. You don't really think about that stuff, eh? But it's super important to kind of round the year off, finish up on a high and a.
I said to my wife the other day, I said, I can see the appeal of having a Christmas party a couple of months early, purely because by now you can't be stuffed. And like, you want to put on a good show for the boys, but I'd like to just on Thursday night go see you guys and be gone, you know? So I see the appeal of doing it in October. But then I quite like, we've always done it that we have it on the last day and then we go out, have a good time and say goodbye and we don't see each other again till, middle of January.
Yeah.
But yeah, this year especially, I'm like struggling just to even book something. I just want to go home.
Braden's Friday. It's funny because we were talking on the phone the other day, and you were just like, "Mate, what did you say?" You're like, "I don't think I've cracked a smile all week." It's just been.
I couldn't even hide my smile last week. I couldn't even pretend to be happy. Sorry, not hide my smile. Yeah, it's like. At least smile
because we've with Grow, we've kind of created some video stuff for UA, and you're just like, I was like, it's taken like quite a bit longer than expected, because we want to kind of get it right. So we kind of go back and forth, second iteration, third iteration, fourth iteration, and there's a lot of nuance in the content that we're doing for you now, right? With making sure that it can't be cheesy, it can't be, you want to get it just right, and you were like. You're probably not in the right frame of mind, eh? You'll just come back and rip it to shreds. Yeah. Start again.
I said to Claire, we have to watch the edits from the videos, but I said, I'm just not in the right frame of mind. If I watch it and there's not something if it's not perfect, I'm going to lose it.
Get on the blow to Brad and be like, what the F is this?
I'm looking at it through the wrong goggles.
Be like real critical. I do that sometimes that way with a lot of those videos. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to rip into this one right now. Let's see if he performed, It's kind of hard because it's like an artistic expression to it, I guess. It's not all, numbers and calculations, right? It's sort of subjective a little bit.
And it was funny because, like I was just saying to you before about that argument I had with someone, it wasn't even a big deal, but it was on the back of about 5 other things that day. And I just should have left it, and it was an email. But instead of even emailing back, I was like, I'm just going to ring and deal with this. And it escalated quick on the phone, And as soon as I hung up, I thought, I should have just left that till tomorrow morning. It wouldn't have even been a big deal.
Well, you got to contextually, you got to take into consideration the end of the year and all that sort of stuff. And there's been. It feels to me like this year's just gone forever from my point of view, where it's just been so many ups and downs, and then it's kind of good, and then it's kind of shit, and then it's just been going for forever. But maybe that's because I've been doing, essentially starting the podcast this year and stuff has been taking me on a bit of a tailspin.
Yeah, you've had a big year.
Doing a lot of weird and wacky new things. You know what I mean? It's not just been like business as usual. Yeah. So maybe that's probably part of it. Why I'm kind of feeling like that. But
I think like you were saying about your Australia trip, like. When I asked you if it was, if you got to have some fun, and you're like, nah, it was just like full on. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I'm in the podcast with the builders there, it was great. It was
That's
epic.
the easy part.
It was just like in the zone, right?
Yeah.
But then like leading up to it, and then like, okay, I'm doing one. And then as you're kind of having an awesome chat and stuff, and you're like, oh, I'm coming, and you kind of keep your eye on the clock, and you're like, oh, another builder's like rocking up in like 5 minutes. I got to like wrap this up. And then it's like a crossover. Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah. And it's like a new guy. Hey, how you going? Come on in. It's like, because we had to do like, for the listeners, I had to go over to Oz and essentially shoot 8 episodes in like 4 days, and then fly in and fly out as well. So, it was, so based on that, it's just back to back to back. So then the fun part is not there.
No.
And in the perfect world, you almost want to like hit up a couple of the builders, go grab some dinner with them, and like actually like build relationships. Because out of the 8 that I interviewed, there was like a good percentage of them were like good dudes that I would fully go have like lunch with or have dinner with or build that relationship with. And But it was just like no time. It was like in, out, like a sushi train, you know.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like
It'd be hard to keep like a smile on your face for that long, and to keep fresh. Like you'd have to like really switch on because every new builder he wants to get the good experience too, right? So
yeah, exactly.
it's gotta
Yeah,
be fresh for him. You're like, oh, I've just had 2 hours with that bloke. Now you're like, hey.
I remember the last guy I got. His episode will actually come out next week. Len, he's a great guy, like an older guy, kind of like 1 foot into retirement, 1 foot still sort of running the company.
Yeah.
They've been around for like 30 odd years or maybe even more. Do like multiple tens of millions in revenue and like real high end stuff.
Wow.
And it was like, I don't know if it was just like the last episode of it, but he just kind of started talking, and then I just shut up, and it was like a monologue for like 30 minutes. So it was just like, he's like, and then I did this, and then I went there. I was like, yeah, cool, like go for it, mate.
You
Take
just
over.
nod off and you keep going, buddy.
But it was good though. It was a good episode. Yeah, that will, like I said, it will come out next week. But what are you guys doing for Christmas and stuff? What are you doing for the break and New Year's? Are you heading away? Or are you sticking around?
We usually hang around. My wife's family's all in Auckland, so they're a pretty big, tight-knit family. So we'll be hanging out with them over Christmas, and usually the boys play golf Boxing Day, family sort of boys trip.
Nice.
And then my wife goes back to work on the 6th, which is a bit of a bummer. And then we go away on the 18th camping. They're the same dates. We go up to a place called Whananaki. We go for nearly 2 weeks. So I effectively take all of January off.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'm pretty relaxed with my guys too. Like most of them, they sort of come back around that Monday, around the 13th or 15th, whatever it falls on.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty chilled too. I'm sort of like, as long as you give me warning, like be back by February.
And are they contractors or are they employees?
I've got a couple of contractors and then employees.
Right.
So,
So the employees, it's kind of forced leave or whatever? Like,
No,
not forced leave, but
no,
like...
it's up to them. Like
Right.
they don't really take a lot of breaks through the year.
Right.
They kind of tend to just work. A few of them do, but it might be long weekends and stuff. So, they accrue their leave pretty quick. And then, I sort of let them do what they want.
Yeah.
But like you can see it on their faces, they all need a break.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be like, you're all coming back on the 6th, because I need to make more money. Like I want them to come back happy.
Yeah, for sure. So.
So.
No, you've definitely got like a good bunch of guys.
They're good.
I met all of them when we were shooting on site that time.
Yeah.
They're like a real fun bunch, it looks like.
Yeah,
like they're happy to have a laugh and crack a few jokes
Yeah, they're
and
good.
give each other.
Yeah, there's some
shit,
good
you know?
banter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not, you might think it's all like that, but it's not all like that, right? Like building, I mean, you've probably been in crews when you were even just a chippy yourself where it's not there, right? Like there's no banter or anything. People just come in and just like shit on each other and get, I've been on a few, I used to be a hammerhand and also obviously owned a building business as well. Like it's quite hard to kind of keep that culture going.
Yeah.
It's not as easy.
No, it's not easy. And I think too, that's why I like not having a big company. I think when you get too much bigger, when you get big, it's hard to have a team full of rock stars.
Yeah.
Someone sort of has to become the shithead. And I remember an old bloke saying to me once, like, if you get rid of the annoying guy, someone else has to fill that gap. So someone else will become the annoying guy. And it was good advice, like, it'll never happen, So I sort of find where we are now is our sweet spot. And it really works. So I sort of, I've been doing it so long now that I don't want to rock the boat, Like it'd be easy to go, take on 2 more jobs, get 2 more teams, get 8 blokes or whatever, But then, it just doesn't make sense to me. Whereas when it's good,
I've talked to, obviously I've talked to a few builders over the years and I don't know myself because I haven't hit that level yet, but from the feedback I've got, it's you kind of sort of go up to like 8 guys, 10 guys, and then the next jump is kind of like 20 guys in terms of like profitability and like return on investment of your time and effort and all that sort of stuff, because you have to like immediately, you have to probably hire more, someone that can do more project management or more office staff.
Yeah.
And then everything, the whole operations gets bigger.
Yeah.
And so if you sort of like between 10 and 15, 10 and 20, 12, 13, 14, 15, apparently like a lot, that's not like a sweet spot to be in.
No,
yeah.
And I think, like I have no overheads. We talked about this on the podcast. Like, I just have no overheads, So my rates that I can charge clients are true rates, whereas I look at some other guys who, yeah, like once you get to the point where you've got a QS and, you know, project managers and you got like a few people sitting in an office, which you've got to hire, and, you know, that's when you got to start charging a lot more to cover those costs, you know.
Yeah.
It's not your problem to cover those costs. The clients have to cover it. But to me, I just think it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
For me, again.
Yeah, exactly. It's all, everyone's got to choose their path, choose the business they want to run.
Which has been really cool with the podcast. Like everyone I've listened to, no matter everyone does it differently. Like, you know, there's a couple who I've resonated with, and a few of them I know, so I sort of knew I would. But, you know, like everything they said, I'm like, oh, you know, it's exactly, you know, and we've caught up. There's a few of the guys I've caught up with, Sam Hayes, and I know Willie DeGrucci really well, and
Yeah.
you know, Matt from Intact pretty well. And so we've all talked, you know, and it's cool because we've all sort of said, oh man, it's cool to hear other people, you know, doing it the same way or have the same outlook on it and that. But then there's been some people who are very different too, which I've really enjoyed hearing.
Yeah.
You know, because yeah, it's a good platform to hear that stuff, you know, and hear the different ways we all do it. Because none of us, and one thing I've gotten from your podcast is none of us know what we're doing. We're all winging it, which is unreal. Because I thought I was the only
so
one.
good.
I
It's
thought I was
good.
the dumb one.
It's like just such a relief, hey?
Yeah, I thought I was the stupid one that was like winging it, faking it. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, none of us really know. And that's true for,
Yeah.
you know, that's true for anyone in business, really. Most people in business, as soon as you get to a point where you think you know what you're doing, you know, new challenges come up because then it's the next level of growth or whatever. So you're always kind of like an idiot in at least some aspect of your business. You're always going to have to learn, you know?
Yeah.
And if you're not the kind of guy that's open to constantly learning, you know, you're probably business is definitely not for you because you're just going to be very frustrated if you're just sort of stuck in the same spot,
Absolutely.
dealing with the same issues and not solving them.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been talking about that. It's been very interesting. I mean, we started the podcast. I think it was the 28th of March. We dropped our first episode. I think you were like the second episode ever.
Oh, really? Right.
Maybe second or third. I can't remember now. But yeah, one of the at least top first five. And yeah, I never thought that it would. I always kind of just thought that I'd get about, I don't know. I'd be happy if I get sort of like, you know, 100 to 200 listens per episode. That was kind of what I was aiming towards. Not at the start. At the start, I thought I'd get like 10 or whatever. And so it kind of just ramped up like super quickly, you know. April, May, June, July, like all the Instagram and everything just kept popping off. And so, yeah, it's been actually like, I mean, apart from, it's cool that you have like people listening, so that's cool. So every month we have like, you know, probably on the audio, we probably have like maybe like 1,000 to 2,000 people, per episode that listen to each episode. And so that's kind of cool because, okay, cool. There's actually people out there that listen to this. Yeah. But then also like the conversations with the builders, you know, have been just unreal, you know, to use your phrase, unreal. Favorite phrase.
I'm trying not to use that as much.
Henry's unreal. It's just unreal. Must be an Aussie thing, isn't it? Unreal. But yeah, it's just been unreal because it's kind of like you get like different feedback, you learn from different people. Obviously, I had my own building business, and I was about, you know, I don't know, maybe about 10 episodes in, I already knew that I needed to sell out straight away.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I then started to see what is expected of you to be able to succeed.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to put that in because I've got other businesses and things like that. And then also that made me realize then that someone somewhere is going to have to pay the price for it. It's either going to be the client that's going to be pissed off, or we're going to build a thing over budget. And so then that we're going to find ourselves in financial trouble, or like, you know, something was going to have to give. Yeah. Because I wasn't able to give 100%. I was only able to give like 60%. You can't really run a successful building business giving 60%. Yeah. So so that was kind of in terms of like, you know, making a big impact on my year. It was probably that, like starting the podcast. Because originally I thought I'd start the podcast, like it started like almost selfish, you know. I thought I'd do the podcast, and then because I've got Grow, you know, and Grow is all about helping custom builders get better projects and more projects. And And I thought, yeah, I'd run the podcast and just flick off, and then I'll get heaps of leads for grow.
Yeah.
And then it became more, altruistic or whatever. It became more like less selfish as time went on. And I was like, and I've yet to even like promote grow on the podcast, or I've yet to, there's no call to actions for grow or like an ad for grow. Like it's been like, it's like the opposite of what I thought. Yeah, like now I have. But like, yeah, it's like grow. But it's been, it's kind of like funny how that works, because sometimes you start something selfish, like, even like, I want to start a building business and make some money. And then you start working with clients, and then you start working with people, and you have staff, and you go, and then all the selfish things sort of like move to the side, and you're kind of thinking about all the other reasons you're doing it for, rather than the selfish reason. So yeah, no, it's been good. I think we're like on episode somewhere in the 30s, like 35 or 38, something like that. We're now, so no, it's good.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you that. Like, I was interested to know if that, like, what the idea was behind starting the podcast, because it's, to me, what you've done is pretty cool, and it's also, I mean, anyone who's trying to start a business in the trades, whether it's building or whatever, I mean, if they went out and listened to the podcasts, like, that would just sidestep 5 years of pain and mistakes. So what you've done is massive for people in the industry. Like,
that's
they
cool.
owe you one,
Yeah.
I mean, I've learnt so much. Like that Finn Collins one, I was driving along just going, holy shit. Like, I reckon I was doing 80% of everything right.
Yeah.
But I got straight on the phone to Willie Grucci. I was like, mate, you got to listen to this podcast. And then he listened to it. And then he got in contact with Finn and got him to have a look over his stuff. And he rang me. He's like, you got to ring him up, mate. Like, get him to look over all your stuff. And so I did. And like straight away he came back and said, your email signature's not right. And I was like, what? He's like, it's, you're putting yourself at risk because your email signature's not right. And I was like, what? So like I changed it really quick. And yeah, like he's unreal. I mean,
yeah.
So that stuff's so powerful. So yeah, I was interested to see which way, whether you sort of answered it, whether it was started from trying to help people view, or trying to just because you're interested, or...
So, I think you're kind of bullshitting yourself if you say things aren't for some reason, selfish,
No, of course not.
Everything's kind of selfish. But the other part was like, because I grew up, but then I also thought, there's like a bit of a double whammy here, because if I can interview all these successful builders, they could be sort of pseudo mentors for me running my construction company, or Harper. So that was like, the idea was like, okay, so I'll learn from these builders and I'll implement that with Harper. But then the opposite happened. You guys all talked me out of it without realizing.
Yeah, right.
And realized that, like, the risk sometimes does outweigh the reward. You have to put a lot of effort in. And then I ended up comparing it with my other business, and I'm like, what input do I have to put in to make $1 of net profit? And then I looked at my other business, and I looked at the building business, and I was just like, the input for the other business was way less to be able to extract $1 out of it. So, and obviously I couldn't put the time in. So yeah, and in essence, it kind of all worked out, obviously, or probably as it should have. But I'm super glad that you're getting, you got value out of the podcast. And the Finn Collins, the solicitor one, if people are listening, they haven't listened to that one. Finn Collins. I keep saying Phil Collins, like the muso.
No, definitely.
Finn Collins, he was really good, and he was just like, the way that he explained everything was quite like really relatable, and he didn't talk like difficult lawyer language or anything like that. He was just explaining everything like really well.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of builders I talked to, even guys that had like 10 years plus experience, didn't understand like the payment claim process and how you connect. Because we had a chat about that afterwards. And it's like, you don't want to be necessarily like following the payment claim process to the T every time with every client, because you're going to piss them off, right? But I think those work really well when when you're in a situation where you're not getting paid with someone, you've chased someone up so many times, they go quiet on you, they don't return your calls, they don't return your emails, and you're like, I can get a spidey sense here that this guy just doesn't want to pay me. I think that's when you kind of whip out the payment claim process or put that into. Get the ball rolling on that. Have you used that before?
Nah, never. I mean, there's probably been 2 instances in my entire time of owning my business since 2007 where I've had a client kind of go a bit funny at the end and had to chase money a little bit. Once I had to chase them via my lawyer, but thankfully that the master builder's contract's got some pretty good clauses in it that, to be honest, that a lot of clients don't actually pay much attention to.
Yeah.
And the clients had, they'd gotten their hands on a set of keys to move some stuff in, which we said they could move some stuff into the garage, but they actually moved in. They moved in over a weekend, and they hadn't paid their final claim, and they weren't paying it. Oh, and they
just like,
there was a language barrier, we had to do the whole job sort of through an interpreter guy, and they were living overseas. But then, so anyway, they moved in, and there was I'm sure it's probably still in there. There's a good clause in there about you can't take possession until all payments have been made.
Yeah.
So my lawyer effectively just wrote them a letter that said, you've got 72 hours or something before the police come around and remove you from the house because you're trespassing. It's quite cool. They paid really quick.
Yeah.
It turned out that in their culture, they expected that if a deal had gone really well, that they should get a 10% discount. I was like, well, that doesn't, not my culture.
Yeah, that's cool. But no, we don't. Somebody how we do it.
Yeah. So that would have been great to have, to have known that, which I could have done,
Yeah.
But yeah, like we said, like if you pulled that out, like with my clients, if you pulled that out just because they were a couple of days late, like that'd be the end of the relationship.
Yeah, you gotta have that dance.
But it's cool to know. It was cool to just have that information, and like I said, we were probably at 80%.
Yeah,
there was a few little tweaks to make on our invoices.
Yeah,
I think because we do a lot of charge up work, the way we give the invoice or payment claim, now that I've renamed it, payment claim, the budget report showing the running budget for the month versus the estimate, and we give them a Dropbox folder full of every docket, like that sort of ticked all the boxes. But yeah, it was just really valuable information. And I think too, because everyone's so scared of lawyers because they're so cost prohibitive, like I hate the idea of contacting my lawyer because I know I'm going to get a bill for $1,400 just straight away.
Yeah.
So
rather than just avoid it.
We just want to avoid it. Yeah. Like you don't want to have to, like it's the worst. Your worst fear is having a rich client turn around and go, I'm not paying it. What are you going to do about it? Because they're going to go, well, I'll play the game as long as you want, and that would screw you.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got $500,000 of monthly billing out, if you're on 10% margin, not much of that bill's yours.
Yeah. 100%.
But that's all due to be paid out on the 20th,
Yeah.
And so if they decide not to pay, it's not like you can act on that very quickly.
No.
And you've got the fear of what it's going to cost you to act on that,
Yeah.
So Finn, like even with after Willie, I talked to Willie and Willie was like, oh, I've got him to look at my things. Like, so I emailed Finn and he got straight back to me. I couldn't believe it. Like,
legend.
He was straight back and he was like, send me all your stuff. And then, he apologised because he didn't have it by that next Friday. Like, I thought that's going to be 3 weeks before I hear from him. And then he was hassling me saying, have you got everything you need or do I need... It was really good, So,
yeah. And shout out to Ed Cooney, actually. It's Ed Cooney's lawyer.
Yeah, right.
Ed Cooney put me in touch with Finn, and that's how it all came together. So Ed should get the credit, a bit of the credit for that as well.
That was good.
So talking about lawyers, I actually know of a guy who his dad's like a big time lawyer, and he's in business, construction, whatever. And he had this thing where someone wasn't paying him or something. So he called his dad up and he was like, oh, Dad, like, I don't know how to kind of approach this because, it was like a complicated situation. And they're like chatting for like half an hour. His dad's like talking to him through it, like, do it this, send that, then send that, da. And then, cool, he did it and stuff. And then, I don't know how long, 3 weeks later, invoice came through. Couple of $1,000. legal advice rendered or whatever.
Yeah.
His dad sent him an invoice.
Yes, that's awesome.
Pretty rough, eh?
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
yeah. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, welcome to the real world.
Yeah.
Well, that was the other thing I liked about that thing, the podcast with Finn. Like, I cracked up laughing that it's the client's responsibility to pay for him to chase your bill.
Yeah, I mean, that's
that
so
is-
sweet,
And
eh?
it's not just in your terms and conditions, it's law. It's like the law.
Construction
That
law,
cracked
yeah.
me up. I was like, that's the best law in...
Yeah,
that's the
because
best
it's
law
kind of a bit
out
of
there.
fun, you know?
Yeah.
It's like every time I'm chasing you, you pay more.
Yeah, it's
you're
just there's
paying
going to
for
be
my
a
law.
bill coming, not from me, from him.
Yeah, and it's legally binding. So, no, that's definitely good. And also the other thing as well, I don't know, that's not as relevant, but for the old school guys was quite good, like especially for subbies as well, where the pay when paid, you can't legally tell someone like, oh, hold on, I'll pay once the main client pays
Yeah.
me, then I'll pay you. You can't. That's not actually something you can allowed to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of people do it. Especially on
I
the
hear
smaller
that
end.
stuff. Like, I've never done it, and
Yeah.
I've always got, and again, like, I'm probably pretty cautious, so I've always got money there, a backup, or a war chest,
Yeah.
call it a war chest, whatever, rainy day. But I'm paranoid about that, But there's nothing worse than if you have to pay all your bills and you haven't had that money come through, and there's that crossover a day. Or
Yeah,
two on the
it's
20th.
it's hard, eh?
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And I do 20th of the month billing, but I pay my boys fortnightly. So, if you're running 10 guys and you're doing anywhere from 30 to 40 grand a fortnight in wages, sometimes you'll do 6 fortnights in a pay cycle before you've been paid for it by the client. Like, suddenly you're in a hundy,
Yeah.
so.
So have you got you obviously got a war chest, but have you got like an overdraft facility as well, or do you not even?
Got a little one, but I don't.
Yeah.
It's sat there forever, but I just don't. I've got it in place when I first started, which is a miracle. I don't know how I got one, but it's been there forever
Jeepers.
since.
Yeah.
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 But I get deposits. I get a 5% deposit, and I hold it until the final payment.
Right.
And I always have. And I heaps of guys say, "Oh, we give ours back over the first 2 invoices," and I'm like, "Why?
Yeah, you don't have to.
Why?" I've never, ever had a client say to me, "Oh, what, we have to give you 5%, which is the master builder's contract, and we don't get it credited back to the final day." Everyone, they go, "Okay, no."
Yeah, because if you think about it, it's like $1 million build, there's like 50 grand, right?
Yeah. So,
So that's 50 grand that you could use, that's
so I
there.
have a separate account and it goes into it. I don't touch it. But if I have to pull it in to say pay a bill, then straight away my bookkeeper sets it up to go back when I've been paid on the 20th or whatever. But
And how often do builders did you do it earlier on in your business? How often do builders run like a Ponzi scheme in their account where it's sort of like they got like this project paying for bills related to that project? Like how does that
probably all the time.
Because if you're cash poor, you got to just sort of pull from somewhere,
Well, again, we're not accountants and we're not QSs. We're just chippies who were probably pretty good at banging a nail in and thought I might have a crack at start my own company, because from your podcast, that's what most of them were.
Yeah.
So, we're all winging it. But when you get the first couple of big jobs and you think it's all good and there's big invoices every month and you're getting profit margin on it, and it's easy to get trapped into thinking, oh, well, I'm making all this money every month, and it's not yours.
Yeah.
It's a third of it's tax to start
What
with.
was it like? It's funny as you said to me, like a while ago, you just had all this money coming in, obviously not just from the project, and you had like $1 million in your account, and you were just like, look at that.
No, I remember I told you it was I think it was
show clear.
I think it was $6 short of $1 million.
You're like quick
Yeah.
You transferred the $6.
I transferred $6 across from my little personal account, which I put $400 a month into for coffee. And I transferred $6.50 across or whatever. Screenshot it, paid the $6.50 back, and then paid all the bills, and it was all gone. It was
it's so funny. Yeah, because it's like so little of, as a builder, just so little of what comes in is yours, eh? And that's just
Yeah, and you walk such a fine line of risk and reward, because again, if that client says, I'm not paying that bill, then you got to find a lawyer, you got to find one fast, you got to pay that lawyer a lot of money, And, you know, if you've still got guys who are working and you've got wages going, you know, like it's actually scary when you talk about it, you know. It's
100% because of that time delay as well. So
Time
okay, cool.
delay.
So now we're going to sort that out. Okay, so that's going to be like a 2-month, 3-month process if everything goes well. Like if you say you don't follow like a payment claim, you sort of just go through the lawyers and all that. You know, it's going to be months before you get that.
Yeah.
In the meantime, all the money's still going out.
Imagine it happen now. Everyone's locking off for Christmas. Your lawyers are
Yeah.
like, oh, you know, we're all knocking off. We're back on the 13th.
Have you ever come across? I mean, I already know the answer because you always said that you've worked with good clients, but you haven't come across like professional like hustlers, because like there's a lot of builders I've talked to where their client was essentially just like a professional hustler, so they played them and then came to the final invoice and they just don't pay it.
I've had one who was a developer. Who was
Yeah.
a crook. He was a crook. Yeah.
And they kind of, it's like premeditated almost.
They wouldn't be able to. There's no way they would be able to do a project and not rip you off. It's like a rite of passage. Like they don't make their money from being generous with their cash.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was lucky. I got out of it in time, but they've just got a reputation of just leaving a path of destruction in their wake. And it shocks me that people work for them because
Yeah.
you know, I got out of it. I saw the light.
I think they kind of, because I've seen that as well. Even like sometimes some main contractor builders that are a bit like, you know, not on the generous side, and even developers and stuff like that. They kind of look for builders that are, you know, like in a dire situation, or they're like really struggling, or like they don't have any work coming up for the next 3 to 6 months or whatever. And they're like, hey, do you want to subcontract on this, or do you want to, you know? And then before you know it, they've kind of squeezed them so tight on the labour. Like I just talked to a builder that like the other day, it was a good mate of mine. And he was saying, yeah, I've got like 2 projects on the go. I can't remember the exact numbers, but he's like, yeah, I've got 2 projects on the go. One of them is like, these are like new, like real architectural new builds and like really like fancy suburbs and, you know, around the place. And he goes, yeah, I got one project. If all goes to plan and nothing else go wrong, I'll be like 20 grand in the negative on that one. And I've got another project, it was the same main contractor, builder. If that one goes, everything goes to plan and nothing else go wrong, I'll be about 15 grand in the negative on that one. So 2 projects, taking him like, you know, most of the year.
Yeah.
He's like 35 grand in the negative.
Yeah.
And just like...
Gee, I don't know how
He's just been squeezed, because he was squeezed so low on the labour front. Then things go wrong, then architectural plans come through and they are not, you know, no plans are perfect and stuff. So there's a little bit of copy paste, or some people made some mistakes. And so then it's kind of back and forth and time. And then guys were like putting on cladding and they had to remove some of the cladding. And then it was like, you know, it's just sort of 5 convoluted events all together.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you're running your labour crew at like a loss, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the only reason he took on the job was because there was nothing else coming in. It was earlier this year. Things were pretty tight.
Yeah.
So then he could have just been out. He just could have just gone surfing or fishing or something instead of doing all that, you know?
Yeah. I get it. Like, if you make a mistake, you make a mistake. You got to eat it, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we made a pretty good mistake a couple of weeks ago. You know, we had to pull up a whole floor of tile floors. And miraculously, the tiles came up without breaking. I couldn't believe it. But
Yeah.
anyway, it was our balls up. You know, the boys had set out, the tile set out for the tilers. They'd set off 2 points and turned out one of the points was not square. So, you know, they set out this, they thought they were doing it right. It was an honest mistake, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, you got to eat that. But then when guys get squeezed on rates to get jobs, like that's just like, that makes me angry, you know. Like, you know, go to, you know, you don't take your wife out to a fine, you know, to the, you know, give me a restaurant in Auckland, give me like the Grove. You don't go to the Grove and then go in and start negotiating rates before you eat your meal. It's mental. You don't go to a surgeon who's going to operate on your knee or your shoulder and say, yeah, but hang on a minute, how much is, you know, what's your hourly rate for the nurses? And, you know, like it's mental, whereas we get squeezed.
Yeah.
I don't really know why. Like, I don't know why people think that because they're going to build a house, we should give them a discount. Like, they should be grateful we're building the house, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's funny because then most people also assume just because of the increase in construction costs, you know, like the increase in the cost of building a home, people assume is like the builders are just milking it You know, like the builders are still on the same rates they've been like for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, everything else has been going up.
I actually looked at my rates the other day. We're on the same rates that we've been on. We've been on the same rates for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Like I should be charging out my main 2IC. I make $5 an hour off him. I mean, you know, that's mental. Anyone you ask says that's crazy. You know,
Yeah,
he's
it's
like
crazy.
a loss leader because he's so good. But I also know it's the biggest number on paper. Like it makes me sick when I see labour on a quote, on my quotes. It's a killer,
Like,
especially on a job. You know, I mean, you came to the job in Herne Bay. You know, we were there for nearly 5 years. I mean, you can imagine what the labour on that was costing. You know, I mean, I remember that client used to say to me all the time, "Henry, stop trying to save me money." You know, he'd say, you know, he'd make a change and I'd say, I'll price it up. And he'd say, what price? Just do it. I want action, you know. But he always used to say, stop trying to save me money. And I'd always say, mate, I can't stop trying to save you money. Like, I don't care how much money I assume you have. I assume he's got money. But it doesn't make a difference to me. Doesn't mean I should have more of your money than if I was working for Brad from Grow or whatever. Like, doesn't work that way. So, you know, like, people squeezing guys in their rates, it's not cool. And our rates are shitty compared to the other rates. Go and look at a doctor's rates or what are architects charge now? Well, I don't know, they must be $180 an hour.
I don't know what the hourly is, but I know that because they charge a percentage and some of them just charge like a flat, I don't know.
Yeah, but, you know, like any trade or industry, call it, you know, they've all got these. I mean, what do lawyers charge an hour? You know, I get it. They've got to cover their beautiful big building in the city and, you know, their Mercedes, and they build all that in. But, like, we don't get to build all that in. Like, everyone says, you know, you're putting 10% on $1 million, whatever, $1 million job, or it's $100,000, you know. But it's like, I mean, I've got Builder-Trend. Builder-Trend cost me $7,000 US a year, which is crazy, again. Like, but, you know, it's good. That's 14,000 New Zealand, you know, like chuck in your hazard code, chuck in, my bookkeepers, as I said, I've got a virtual bookkeeper. I know what they cost me. They're probably $4,000 or $5,000 a month, probably $4,000 a month.
Yeah.
You know, so you add all that stuff up, that's all, someone's got to pay for that.
Yeah.
The problem is when you're getting squeezed on your rates, especially on charge up, that's where you're getting squeezed, is you're getting squeezed out of what you put on your kid's table.
Yeah, I don't understand it, because builders also like, I've had like a bit of a rant about this a while ago, but like how builders are like responsible. They're accountable, responsible for the whole build. So if it's like $1 million build, they literally responsible to a point like they have to price it and then put their nuts on the line that it's going to be built within that price. Then they have to like have all the warranties and stuff right on that project. Then they have to like manage all the sub-trades, they have to manage the whole process, then have to manage the money coming in through. They have to like, there's so much responsibility and accountability on the builder. And then they're the ones that end up getting paid like the least out of everyone, like the architect, all the sub, like the the plumber and the sparky and all that. The builders end up. I just don't think the juice is always worth the squeeze. You know what I mean? Like if you think about it,
We
like
just don't know how to do anything different.
So you're like it's like $1 million worth of like full on risk for 100,000. If you do a great job, for $100,000 worth of net profit.
Yeah.
If you do everything right.
The more you say it, the crazier it sounds.
Yeah, it just
Because
doesn't.
no one else operates on that lower profit margin.
No. And so you just make like a little bit of mistake and you can clip like 2, 3, 4% off your net profit. And then and that's devastating, you know?
Not to mention like in a year when, you know, a client says, can you come back because all the doors are moved or whatever, and you go back and you fix it. Like, I don't know, most builders don't charge for that. We eat it, you know.
Yeah.
You want the clients to be happy and, you know, like, there's so much extra we don't get to keep all that money, and it's such a myth, you know.
Yeah.
We just get what's left over.
Yeah.
And
you hope something's left over.
Yeah, they hope something's left over. And that's why you want to do jobs where, you know, you put the few $100,000 kitchen in, you know, you hope they up-spec the joinery to a real expense, you know, like...
Yeah.
You know, I sort of feel sorry for these guys who are out just doing really low-value work, and they're working their guts out, and then they're probably going home to their wife and kids and laying awake at night because, you know, the plumber lets him down, the plumber just he goes, oh, I'll let you down. But then he hangs up and doesn't care. You're the one who's got to tell the client because, you know, the buck stops at you. So, like, if you have 4 different things go wrong in a day from 4 different sub-trades, you're the one who's got to tell the client that. They don't.
Yeah.
You're the insulation, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
So how do you then, what's your point of view then about, like, for builders to do everything in their power to, like, increase or elevate the type of project they start working on? So if someone's working on if someone's average project value is like 500K, you know, would you recommend, like, mate, do everything in your power to get that up to like 800, 900, 1 million, 1.2, just so you could work on higher quality projects, better clients, better, you know, is that important or is it not really that important? Do you think people can still make money on that?
Well, you know, you want to work for good people and you want to do good projects, you know. But I think too, you know, the way our businesses work, you need to know what your, you know, profit on gross turnover is. It's an important number because at the end of the day, you know, that's the basic calculation. So if you're making 15%, you know, if you're doing $5 million worth of work a year and making 15%, or if you're only doing $1 million of work a year and making 15%, they're 2 very different numbers. So, like, if you've got a good accountant, hopefully they'll tell you to look at it that way.
Yeah.
I didn't
15% gross profit, you mean, or net?
So 15%. So put 15% profit on gross income.
Okay.
So gross turnover. Sorry.
Yeah.
So 15% profit on gross turnover.
Yeah.
So, like my accountant, you know, when I first started with my accountant, I think I might have said this in my podcast. He like got my wife and I in together.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is she coming in? You know, it's got to do with her.
Yeah, she's a scientist. What's she
And
doing?
he spun the whole thing around. So he was like, here's what you guys spent last year, you know. And he goes, I want you to add in, you know, he added in all this stuff, like add in school fees and add in a 15 grand a year holiday. And, you know, he put our entire life up on a screen, you know, dollar and cents. It was amazing. And then he goes, here's how much you need to invoice every month, Henry, to cover that. Like, it had the mortgage in it, it had like our cars, the whole lot, holidays, everything. And it was shocking. I was like, holy heck, like that's how much in invoices I have to send out to clients to be able to live the way we currently live. Yeah, it was a really good way to spin it.
Yeah.
Because then I was like, I've got to chase more work, or, you know, we've got to make changes because we were spending more than we were earning.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, because we get so much money come in and then we don't pay tax till quarterly or what, you know.
It's a real false sense of
fake
confidence.
money. So some days, some weeks or months you look at your account and you think, it's so much money. It's so easy to go out and buy, you know. And I think like in the podcast, you know, that's what I was saying about, like, I see these guys with the boats and the jet skis and the trucks and these young guys. And I mean, good on them, and I hope they can afford it, but I think to myself, man, if that's like client deposit money or tax money, or if that's like your mate who was making minus 20 grand, but he's still eating and he's still got the boat and he's still got the jet ski, you know, because that's really common.
Yeah.
You know, for builders, tradies to front load based on money, it's not theirs.
I think that's great, and I think it's great to bring your partner into these conversations. You know, a lot of builders, and keeping in mind there's some builders that earn like, you know, say 80K net profit by the end of it, and then there's builders that may earn, you know, but they're spending 150 a year, and there's still builders that make 500K, but they're spending 700K a year on,
totally.
You know, so it doesn't really matter where you're at. A lot of people in the same boat, right? And we went through the same thing with me and my wife, because Megan's like a saver and I'm like a spend. Like I'm like you know, I always say, like, if I had $10 left, I'd use that $10 to buy a wallet. Because I always kind of feel like, there'll be more money coming in.
Yeah.
You know, like, so I'm not a saver. I'm more like I'll just make more money. But you can't really out earn your stupidity. You know what I mean? You can't really do that. You know, that's what I try to do. But my wife's a saver. So we're going through that exercise actually at the moment around getting her a lot more involved so she can pull in the reins. Because I'll be like, it's like you said, you have 400K in your bank account and you're like, should we go to Fiji? It's only 20 grand. Yeah, let's do it, you know. But all that money is accounted for probably, tax and GST and all sorts. So, and then obviously, other people's money through building the projects, whatever. But it's always very interesting. I think it's really important. And you got to, Claire, right? It's really involved. And so we should probably make that aware. Last time we had this conversation, you make it sound like she's like a real bitch. She's not involved.
She's like, what do you do for a living?
My wife's not really involved. She's a scientist. She does nothing.
Why do you come home dirty every day?
So just shout out there, Claire. You are very involved.
Yeah, love you, Claire.
So we should just probably say that, eh? On that note, I actually got you, it's Christmas.
It is.
Got some crackers. Got some crackers for us. One for you, one for me. And I've got you actually a gift as well.
Thank you.
And you're going to be super impressed because I wrapped it myself.
Yep.
Just like a
nice
look at that,
lines.
eh?
Beautiful. Do you want me to open it here, or am I taking it home to put it under the tree?
No. Open it.
Right.
Open it. It's more of like a show and
Right.
It's a show and tell gift,
Right.
and then we do our crackers because this Christmas. Merry Christmas to everyone out there. Hope you guys are having a good day, with or without family or friends or whatever. Some people do a lot of family stuff. Some people heavy drink. Whatever makes you festive. So with holidays coming up and you're heading away,
Yeah.
to Whanaki, what is that? We've got a
Yeah.
travel hairdryer to keep those locks nice and flowy, because you don't want to go to the beach and have no volume.
Yeah. Especially, I don't need my volume.
So,
Funny story, actually. So, this is going to make me sound like a dickhead, but I got my hair cut the other day. Probably doesn't look like it. And I sat down. It's my wife's hairdresser, and it's not the old down the road $20, barbershop anymore. And I said to her, I've had a guts full of long hair. I said, it's driving me mad. I said, it's time to cut it off. And she was like, she goes, no, she goes, I'm not ready for your hair to come off yet. And I was like, oh, okay. I came home and Claire was like, we're going to get a haircut. Like, she told me I wasn't allowed to.
well, she's your
Yeah,
hairstylist,
there you go.
right? She's in
That'll be
charge. So
good.
there you go.
Yeah.
So no, it's a bit of a in jest.
Yeah,
A lot
it's
of
good. It's good.
with all your social media clips from your podcast last time, it's like a lot of comments on your beautiful locks and Prince Charming and like all these like comments. So I thought it would be funny to give you like something that is relevant, contextual to your lifestyle.
I want to get all the comments about that Aussie builder. How's that Aussie builder with all these boys in the pool with their shirts off, and all the women were like commenting like, "Send them around to my house." That was unreal.
Oh, women can be just as dirty as men, right?
There was a woman from Auckland said, did you start a company in Auckland or something?
Yeah, that's Marshall Keane.
Yeah, he was good.
He was a great guy.
But
really
his
fun.
guys, it was like he only employs like male models. They were like ripped as anything, and they were all in that pool like.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, you haven't seen it, go to Built by MK on Instagram. You'll see it there. It's like a bunch of apparently he just it was just dudes outside. It was just hot. They had their shirts off, and they were just doing some work in the backyard. Some construction. I don't know if they're building a deck or something. And he just saw it, and he was just like, "Guys, I'm gonna have to take a photo here. This is ridiculous." And they were all like
Sprayed him with
ripped,
baby oil or something.
and they all ripped. It looks like staged, but it's fully legit, authentic photo. So shout out to Marshall. That was a really fun episode as well. He was so funny, and he was just like. He was just one of those guys. He kind of reminds me of you a little bit in the sense of you guys seem so unassuming because you have a chat and a yarn and you look like you just kind of came out of the ocean, went for a surf and just chill, and then you kind of look at the businesses and you look at the type of projects and you're like, gee, but these guys got doing something right. So
Maybe it's an Aussie thing.
yeah, it must be an Aussie thing, eh? Definitely an alignment. I think if I got you and him and me together at the pub or something, we'd have a great time. He's kind of that kind of guy.
Yeah.
There you go. Pull it. See what we got. Okay, you got that one. Dan got these, so hope it's not lame, Dan. Hope you got the expensive one. You know, you get the premium ones and you get the cheap ones.
I
Hope Dan
they're
didn't.
inappropriate. Oh,
Yeah,
all right,
no.
eye patch.
There you go, eye patch or something. Do you want to pull that one as well?
Hang on, what do we
What
got?
is it?
How did Scrooge win the football game?
How?
The ghost of Christmas past.
Great.
So bad.
That's not a great joke, Henry.
My son's come home with a book from the library from school. He's 9 years old and it's 1,000 dad jokes. So bad. He just wanders around the house rattling them
Because
off.
how old is he now? Nine
He's
or
9,
nine? Yeah.
In the end, it's like, right, buddy, enough. Stop. I can't do it anymore.
Dad, here's another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the odd good one, but they're all
So you've got a 9-year-old. Oh, let's pop this one as well. See if I got anything.
Oh, you got
It's probably. Oh, sweet. Got the old twist top.
yeah. Make sure we're not in the Matrix.
There we go. Anything else in here? Oh, I've got the old. Got the Christmas hats. We'll put that on later. We don't want to mess up our hair.
No. I could cover up all my greys with it.
What do reindeer hang on their Christmas trees?
I feel like I've heard this, don't I?
Ornaments.
Oh, yeah, nice.
That's a great. You should send this one back to your boy.
Jacob would. He's probably got
Yeah.
that in his book.
Jacob would love that one.
Yeah.
So he's 9, and then is your daughter oldest 11 or something?
Yep, 11. She just finished
and then
year
5.
6. Yep. And
5 or
then,
6. The youngest one.
Hannah, the little ripper. She's 6. Yep. She's 7 in January.
That's crazy, eh?
Yeah.
So did she just finish year 2?
Yeah. Yep. She's pumped about year 3. Yeah.
Oh, she real pumped.
It's cool.
She's
They're all
super
pumped.
cute, man.
Yeah, they are.
When we went out that day to shoot, and they were like baking, and she was like getting
She
right
lost
into it.
3 teeth within like a week. It's hilarious. She's got
Really?
lost both her front teeth and her bottom one. She looks like a pirate. It's
Yeah.
hilarious. She can't speak properly.
It's so funny how when you see at school like all that year like doing their things, they all like look like meth users or something
Yeah.
because all the teeth are gone.
Yeah. And she's hilarious. She'll get a loose tooth and she'll say, Dad, I've got a loose tooth. And within 24 hours, she's just yanking it and it's out.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's
That
like,
was me when I was a kid.
there's a hole under it. Like it's not like the tooth below is coming
It's, like,
through.
devastating.
Yeah, it's like, buddy, just chill.
Aggressive, you know.
Yeah, aggressive tooth puller.
So what year did she lose her first one?
Oh,
how
I
old
couldn't
was
tell
she?
you. That's going, yeah.
Because my daughter's
She
about.
lost, yeah.
My daughter's like 5. She's about to turn 6. She hasn't
Yeah.
lost one yet, but heaps of the kids in her class have already lost like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So I wonder how, and I wonder if it's got to do anything with like, I don't know. Has it got anything to do with anything?
It's all different, yeah. I think our son, he took a while to lose a few. He's got pretty bad teeth. He's going to be costing me a fortune.
Mate, we just been like, yeah, we
Dentures.
just started the dent. We just went through a little dentist phase, you know, when you like get all fizzed on a dentist phase. Because we just haven't, even previous years, we've, we have 4 children, right? They're all 6 and under. So all the money, everything goes to them. So we're not going to think about our dentist appointments or anything like that. So then my wife, she doesn't listen to this, luckily, but the back of her teeth, she's kind of like, her teeth are kind of like a mullet, you know, like business at the front, party at the back kind of thing, you know.
listening.
Yeah. So we went the other day, yeah, and it was just like classic, like, yeah, boom, go in, $5,000, another $2,000, like just fixing all the stuff up. But we went to like a holistic dentist or something.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how,
well,
you know,
I
I
can
don't
tell
know
that
if you can get holistic dentists, but anyway, she got caught up into that. But yeah, they kind of take your like pH levels of your mouth and all that sort of jazz, and a lot of money. But no one likes to go to the dentist.
No. You don't want to go to the dentist. Yeah. We
Dan's like laughing at me. He's like, why are you guys talking about dentists?
Yeah.
Sorry, Dan. We'll move on. We're bored. Dan's like, Jesus Christ. No one wants to listen.
later.
No one wants to listen to this. Okay, should I do the awards? We might as well do the awards.
The awards. I'm intrigued to see who's
Got a
the
few.
awards.
It's not a lot of awards, you know. To be fair, Better Builder's only been going since, you know, what's April till now? It's probably like 9 months or something, eh, Dan? What is it, 9 months or something? I should probably just give a quick shout out to Chen, who normally is our producer. He's over in China. He's from China, and he's over on holiday there. It's a miracle that he's been able, through his VPN, he's been able to access YouTube and Instagram stuff, because in China you can't really access.
Regulated, eh?
You can't access pardon me, you can't access Google really, or YouTube, or Instagram, Facebook, any of that stuff. It's all like WeChat, and they got their own stuff going on.
Yeah.
So he's got a VPN, and so he's still able to do his job. So thanks, Chen. Shout out to Chen. He's Chen's the man, and he's very, very accountable and diligent. You know, like some guys, you just know shit's gonna get done. Chen's like one of those guys. You know, solid.
That's good. You need those guys.
Dan, on the other hand, we won't talk about Dan. Thanks, Dan, for filling in as well. Dan doesn't really work for the podcast, but Dan's been part of the club, which we'll talk about probably later or something. The club, it's kind of like we'll talk about the club soon.
I thought Dan was in trouble when he came to do the interview at the job in Grey Lynn. That was funny.
Yeah, what happened there?
Well, you know that client, he's like hilarious. He's in the film industry.
Yeah, one of your projects that we were filming. Yeah.
Sorry. So when we were filming our project, and he was a great client. He's hilarious. He's really naughty. Remember I said to you, he's gonna be naughty. Such a good client. Like we had such a fun time. We've become really good buddies, but he's outrageous and he's really naughty. And the more he sees someone uncomfortable, the harder he goes.
I love it, eh?
Yeah.
I love that personality.
But he's also in the film industry. He's really successful.
Yeah.
I think he got nominated for a BAFTA. Anyway, Dan was sort of run. He said to Dan, you know, what are we going to talk about? Like, you know, give me a script almost. And Dan was like, oh, he's going to be winging it, mate. He's going to ask some questions. And he looked at me. And I was like, oh, you know. So I said to Dan, I'll jump in and I'll interview him. And it worked out pretty good, Dan. It worked out fun.
Yeah, I must say that video came out really good.
Yeah.
And he came across really well. Yeah. So maybe there's something to it. But the only reason Dan said that is because I've been training him, being like, no, we don't want people to know the questions. And so Dan's been obviously sticking to the script.
That was good because, you know, like I like doing things off the cuff and relaxed and stuff. And it works really well, but you know, with Stu, I can see he's so used to working in the film industry and like in Hollywood, so he's like used to everything so like rigid and perfect, and you know we're on the clock. And, Because for weeks before it, he was like, you know, email me, when are you going to send me through? What's the deal? You know, send me through the script. And I was like, mate, we're just going to wing it, mate. Just turn up and relax. And
didn't like it.
Didn't like it. It was so funny.
Yeah, his one was really good. Actually, like sneakily yesterday, I was catching up with Abodo, the guys at Abodo, with their marketing team. Awesome ladies, Rachel, Lisa, shout out. And I showed him that video. I was like, yeah, look at this. Like, this is what we've been doing with Henry, you know, and a little bit of like inside scoop, you know. Yeah. And they thought that it was so good. Like same as you said, like the video sort of kept your attention the whole time, and then in the end they were just like, oh, yeah, that was great. It was so like. Cool. It was like you were kind of connected to the video, you know.
Yeah. I think that house was cool. Like that house, I'd move into that house tomorrow. Like
Same.
That, you know, as he said he wanted like a gay Bruce Wayne like man cave.
And it was that. It's like it was very.
But he hates sunlight. Like he hates the sun.
Well, he's got like really expensive art,
right? But he likes it dark, and he's anti the sun.
Right.
He's like a vampire.
He's like a vampire, yeah.
And, you know, he's got the amazing sound system. So, like, when you go in there, I've been in there and, like, you go in and the music's playing and, you know, it's cool. Like, you're like, yeah, this is, like, the other lifestyle that in my alternate lifestyle where I'm, like, single and a man about town with a Ferrari or whatever.
I know.
That's the house.
Because it's like, I mean, these numbers are all wrong, but, like, your projects, because we filmed about 3 projects and, like, one was probably, like, a $40 million house roughly. And like, it was a lot, And then the other one was probably like a solid like a $8 million house, $10 million house kind of thing, right? And then this house is probably more like a $3 million or $4 million.
It was like $1 million reno. That's what I mean. It wasn't an expensive budget.
But that's what I mean though. That was the smallest house out of all the houses we've been and filmed. Yeah. That was the smallest house. But for some reason, there's like I'm also like feel that like. The $40 million house, I can't imagine myself like comfortably like living in there and stuff. But like this one, I was like, man, I would move in there in a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat.
Yeah,
it was like 3-bedroom, you know. And, but and
very cool though.
And that was John Irving, and you know, John Irving's cool stuff's all cool. Like, have you been up to Tiari and Taraiti? Holy heck.
I should get him on the podcast actually.
Oh man, John's a legend, and he's hilarious.
Is he
he's
funny
like
guy?
An absolute character.
Okay,
he's got to get him on in there. Like, you know, he's good value. He's good, but that house is like. the whole way building that was cool. Like every time, you know, we started doing a detail like those cedar ceilings or those like tiles in the ceiling, and you know, it was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm into this. Like I want to build that.
Yeah.
You know?
It was cool, man. All those shots we got there was like just every angle was just like a money shot,
Yeah.
you know.
And
Even
it,
though
like
it
it
was,
suits Stu, like you know, his like, you know, he's got these like beautiful little ornate plates, like they're beautiful. It's like your nana would have, but they're like up on the wall, you know, those ones you buy, you know, like
Yeah.
the little spoons and
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and it just says fuck through the middle of it. Like it's, you know, he's outrageous.
yeah, he's like just
Like
a fun
everything
guy.
is to try and shock you, make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And the more he can do that,
It's
the better.
funny, eh?
Yeah. He's good,
Yeah, my
mate.
brother's, he had like a lot of friends that were like, you know, like older gay guys, and they were just like the funniest dudes. Like if you go out and you have a few drinks, they would just be the ones that you'd be like cracking up with all
Yeah.
the stuff they're saying the whole time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we've had a number of gay clients, and they've all been great. We've had the best time. They got a great sense of humour. Like we've had a really good, you know.
Do you think
and
it's because they have
I
like
don't
there's
know.
no women around to kind of bring the buzz
Maybe,
down?
maybe they just don't get their balls broken all day long. Sorry, mate.
It's just like there's like no chicks around who just bring down the buzz. You know, they're just sort of having a great time all around. That's probably it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
On that note, before we get ourselves into
Before
more
we
trouble,
go too deep.
Dan's like coughing
Dan's
over there. Okay, let me do the I'll sort of bang through it pretty quickly, just so we don't like bore the people at home. You know what I mean? But if you've been a guest on the pod, you know, you might get an award. And what we're doing is certificates, and we're also we might do some trophies, Dan? We'll look at what the budget allows for. We'll see what the Aboda guys can do, you know. Okay, so the first one's going to be the People's Champ Award. Okay, so this is for a builder known for their dedication to helping other builders, being a really, really good leader, and delivering outstanding value to clients. This award celebrates the ultimate builder's builder. You know what I mean? So the builder's builder. So the People's Champ Award goes to Ollie Tuck from Oliver Tuck Construction.
I think it's important to get the best out of people. Leadership needs to be adaptive. I don't think you can run a company like this and have too many blanket rules. If I try and make my top carpenters who just love being on the tools run a software program, I'm going to lose them, or I'm definitely not going to get the best out of them. Being kind, caring, being able to set yourself in their shoes, I think it's a real valuable tool.
From Northland. Yeah, what do you reckon? You know Ollie?
Yeah, I don't know Ollie, but he came across as a good guy. I know his work. His work's unreal.
Yeah. Congrats, Ollie. He seems like a good guy. He came on the podcast. I've had a lot of feedback from other people that know him, people that he's helped. And even on the podcast, he kind of had this like anecdote about how he early on in the days he like did this job, and at the end of the job he looked at like his profit and he was like, I made like way too much profit, so he paid the client back some of the profit.
But he said
It's like,
that's led on to
Yeah.
some of the work he's done, which again, like, you know, if you're honest and open with people, it always works out better.
always
It's like
comes
you were
back.
saying about the wallet, with the more money will come in, you know, it always comes. Like you can't look at any one client as this is the guy I'm going to get rich off. You got to look at him like, hopefully his mates are the ones he tells and they're the ones I'll make money off, you know, like, or get rich off, whatever. Like when I heard that, like I thought that's
cool.
Cool, because, you know, look where that's, you know, like taking him, you know.
Yeah.
And it's fair too. And that's why, you know, I always say to people when the argument for charge up is, you know, I don't want to make an extra $100,000 for nothing.
Yeah.
Because we came in under budget. I'd rather it just be open and honest.
Yeah.
You know.
Let's split the risk together and
Do
go
it
on
together
Yeah.
as a project.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, that was cool. I enjoyed that part about Ollie.
And even with him, like I heard this anecdote like a little while ago. This guy was interviewing all the top car salesmen in the US like a couple of years ago, and they found the one guy, and he was like the top car salesman, like out of everyone. And you know the guy that's at the top is normally like miles ahead of the second guy that's second, you know. And they ask him like, oh, you know, give us a bit of an idea of why you're the best salesman. And his mentality was, every single person that comes on the car yard, my goal is to sell them their next car.
Yeah.
So everything I do is to sell them their next car. So I don't want to sell them the car they need right now. I want to sell them their next car.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can imagine like the way that he approaches is very different. And and then he kind of, in the end of the day, probably sells the car anyway because he's kind of more focused on the next car, providing a good experience and make sure they don't feel pushed and all that sort of stuff, you know? So that was kind of like an interesting way of looking from a sales point of view.
But it's smart. You know,
Yeah,
it
fully.
works.
Okay, if you guys can see, Dan's put like little Better Builder stickers on here. I don't know if that comes across. Can you see that, Dan? Does not even come across.
Quite talented, aren't you, Dan?
Dan's a man of many, many talents. He gets in trouble a lot, Dan, but other
Yeah,
than
I
that,
like that.
yeah, he does get in trouble a
I
lot.
get in trouble all the time.
The amount of times I had to be like, "Fuck, Dan!" Like, how many times would I say that, Dan? Per day. No, I'm just joking. Dan's the man. Okay, so the next one is Best Boss Award.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that's a cool one. You know, there's probably a few builders that could have like. Next year we should do like a vote. We should do a voting system. I mean, this year we haven't done. We only just started the podcast. You know what I mean? But next year we'll maybe get people to vote on it because people would have listened to the podcast. Okay, so this one's for a leader who cultivates an outstanding team culture, prioritizes work-life balance, and values family and personal passions. This award honors someone who empowers their team to thrive both on and off the job, or on and off the field. Okay, which is really important, you know, because I know now we live in a world where it's much easier to attract staff, but not long ago, and maybe not long in the future, it's going to be hard again, right, to attract good staff. It's always hard to attract good staff, I feel. It's easier to attract staff, but it's hard to attract the good guys, you know what I mean? So the Best Boss Award goes to Mitch Fleming from TRI Construction.
I like to work hard, play hard. We're quite busy all the time at the moment, but if one of the boys is like, I want to go pig hunting this Arvo, is that all good? I'm like, yeah, man, go for it. Possibly the next day he's bringing in meat for the boys and he's got a good yarn, he's showing us photos. So if we're busy and we need to get something over the line, the boys will just get in and go hard. But I like to think if the surf's pumping, man, you got to do it. Like surf's might only come for a day. You got to live life too. You know, work's always there. If they want to work on the weekend, they can work on the weekend. If they've had a short Friday to play golf, all good.
Shot Mitch.
Good work, Mitch.
We'll put a little sound bite in here afterwards of Mitch talking about his guys going surfing or something, eh?
Yeah, I do CrossFit with his brother, Tom.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, Tom's a good rooster. Yeah, I don't know Mitch, but...
Yeah, Mitch is a good guy. A lot of those guys do. I think Mitch as well, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of those guys do BJJ up at up there, like him and a couple other guys.
Yeah.
Do that Brazilian jiu-jitsu up there. I'm looking to get into that as well. And it's pronounced Tiari, not Tiari, apparently. I've been told by the Maoris.
I say Tiari.
Well, it's incorrect. You got to follow the right pronunciation. Okay, I'm just going to move through these ones. The next one's called the David Goggins Award. Okay, why the David Goggins? So this is for a hardcore, no BS builder who gets shit done, speaks raw truth, and is often overheard saying, "I'm not here to fuck spiders." Okay, gives it away. This award is for the one who pushes through every challenge and demands nothing less than greatness.
Yeah.
Okay, so the David Goggins Award goes to Lee Shane from Shane Construction. Is that what you thought?
Nah.
Who did you
I
think?
think you're going to give it to Willie, to be honest.
Lead by example. I'm not just turning up each day in a shiny ute and do this, do that, hurry up, and then bailing out. If something needs to be done, the apron's on, the spade's out. It doesn't matter how dirty the job is, I'll get in there and do it. And I would never ask anyone to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. And if they don't want to do it, I'll get in there and show them how to do it. Everything is either a challenge or a workout. If I have to go and dig something, oh, cool. It means I don't have to go home and go in the gym tonight.
Yeah, Willie is probably like, it was between Willie and Lee and also Sam.
Yeah, Sam's a good rooster.
Sam Hayes.
Yeah.
So to be really honest, those three were all short, up and running, runner-ups. What do you call it?
Willie's podcast made me want to be a better boss because he's good like that, Willie.
Yeah, and to be honest, Willie could have won Best Boss, and he also could have got the David Goggins Award.
Willie's just no bullshit, straight up. You get what you get,
Yeah.
And he's pretty successful, Willie. He's done bigger projects than me. Like, he flies on the radar. And, like, I made a joke to you. Like, I was like, like he dressed up for you. And you were like, I had to get him out of his high-vis orange shirt, But you said he brought in a heap of venison. Like, he's such a good bloke.
Great
he's
guy.
Soul of the earth, but he just takes no bullshit and no prisoners.
Which so, Willie, we love you.
Yeah.
We
I
love
want to
you,
be
Willie.
like you when I grow up.
Yeah, exactly. Willie's the kind of guy that you'd want to be like him. And to be honest, Lee Shane's also like a guy that you'd want to be more like when you grow up. You just want to be like.
Right. I don't know him, but yeah. That sounds-
Did you have yarns with him at the club? Meeting?
Briefly.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah, he's like one of those guys who just like he'll just go for a bush run. He'll just go for like a 20K bush run,
Yeah.
like no dramas.
That night went really quick. Like,
Yeah.
it was hard to catch up with everyone there. It was
Yeah,
a good night.
yeah, it was a good night. Yeah, $100 million of revenue in that room that night, which just shows you the quality of those builders. Not that revenue's everything, but
Most of that was probably Ross Bannon.
yeah, 80 mil was Ross.
The other 20 was Troy.
Yeah, other 20 was Troy, and then the rest of you guys sharing a mil.
Yeah.
Yeah, Troy's a good man as well.
Yeah,
Troy,
good.
he'll be listening to this podcast, no doubt.
Yeah.
He's a good man. He's just If you look up enthusiasm in the dictionary, there's a photo.
He's
of Troy.
unreal. Yeah, you should see his van. Oh, like man, because I'm a massive tool geek. Like I love Festool gear, and when we did a job with those guys, they helped us out on a concrete job, and just Troy was pulling out drawers, and he had like coffee.
Doesn't he have like a
makers
coffee
and-
machine in there or something?
I was
Everything.
just like Troy, like dude.
Yeah.
Like this is unreal.
I know.
Yeah, he's good.
It's one of those things where people go like, what's the saying when you take advantage of your like family or something? Is that word? When you're like because of your family, you kind of get position. What's that, Dan? Nepotism.
Oh, yeah.
And people could say that he's like the ultimate opposite of nepotism. Of like he's like a gun. Like he's not in a
Troy,
position.
he'll be a rock star.
He'll be a rock
That's
star.
not
He's
blah,
not in a
blah.
position
I don't like
'cause-
saying that because his tail will be fucking wagging after that.
Now,
No, he's a good dude, Troy, and he's like passionate. You know,
Yeah,
we need Troy's. We need Troy's.
100%. Especially in New Zealand, where people are like a bit like tall poppy.
And
so
like
they love it.
New Zealand does good building work. Like we do unreal building work. We got cool
Yeah.
houses, and
Yeah.
the fact that him and Mitch and that.
Concrete
like,
guys.
You talk to Ross. Ross just wants to put cranes up. So
Yeah.
those guys are
The concrete guys,
you
I
want to learn
found
from those guys.
that if builders want to learn how to get better, because we all want to get better in terms of attitude, like learn from the concrete guys.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about not the high end concrete guys, the in situ concrete those guys, because they just share knowledge like crazy.
Which is crazy because they don't need to. They
No.
could keep that stuff locked up.
Yeah.
Like, that's IP, like.
You could
Ross
like
is-
go. Ross could have been like, I'm going to hold everything to myself and charge out consultancy fees for everything.
Forever,
but he doesn't.
forever.
But he doesn't.
Yeah, like it's amazing what Ross has done. And then even the fact that Mitch is just so open and like, I saw a Instagram post the other day, like Mitch is getting into going to Australia to advise on stuff. Like, it's genius. But the fact that he's sharing that knowledge rather than cooping it up, like that's cool.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a Kiwi thing. I don't know. That's really cool. I think
Yeah.
that's huge. Because that stuff's
amazing.
They've learned that. Ross has learned that. He's spent the money. He's made concrete casts and, he's been to the States and Europe and, that stuff, it's not cheap. It's unreal.
It's unreal.
Unreal. There you go. You can have that one for free.
It's no, I think it's just because it's so high. With concrete, it's so high risk. It's you make the smallest mistake, then you kind of screw it. It takes like hours to kind of fix it, So that's why they kind of more willing to share, I think. But I think shout out to those guys. Okay, so the next one's the Giving Back Award. Now, obviously, with all this, it could be Ross Bannon as well, but it's not this time. For someone who gives back to the industry, offers invaluable building business advice to younger builders, and generously shares their time and experience to help others succeed. This award celebrates the coach of the better building community. The Giving Back Award goes to Eddie Cooney from Luxor Homes, he's like an international building company because he's built out in the Vanuatu and Fiji and he's built all around the place. So shout out Ed for giving back.
Good work, Ed.
Yeah, he's always happy to take calls from guys and people just call him up and he just helps them out with stuff.
Yeah. I listened to a few of his things on the Better Builder.
Yeah, like the club.
Yeah, the club, and it was really informative.
Yeah,
Onto it.
he brings everything back to like coaching and like rugby because he's a rugby guy.
Yeah.
So he's like on the field. This is how you attack, how you play the game. No, he's a good man. Had many of hours on the phone with Ed. Okay, so we're getting there. Okay, so this one, Henry's called the Emotional Moment Award. Okay, that wasn't your episode. You didn't get very emotional, eh?
Don't have tear ducts. My wife reckons I don't have tear ducts.
See if we can get Henry crying on this episode. We'll bring Claire in shortly. We're going to make you cry. For a moment on the podcast that left a lasting impression on the listeners and captured a special moment that helped us reflect on life beyond building. Okay, so this is the Emotional Moment Award, and the award goes to Tony Fraser from House of Nautica in Auckland.
The people that had mental depression within my company, on the day that I found out on one of them, I was going to work that day to sack him. Until one of my fellow lads who was running the job there, he says, oh, look, he was in this morning and there was tears and whatnot, and this is where he's at. I called all my boys on that site straight to a meeting, and I says, guess what, boys? He's got a little bit of depression going on, and that's not a problem because he's family. And from now on, boys, we're here to help. Now, we're not just going to give you a week off and say it's going to be okay, because it's not. What we're going to do as a team is we're going to understand on days when you ring up and you say, I just am not functioning today. And what we're going to do at 3 p.m, we're going to check in on them, and we're going to try and get him to work tomorrow. And if it's not tomorrow, it'll be the next day and the next day. We want to show back the loyalty he'd given to us.
Do you know Tony?
No, I don't know Tony, no.
So he's a good man. He's an old school guy.
I know their jobs.
Yeah, because he builds out where you build.
Yeah.
You guys cross paths.
Yeah.
Maybe not cross paths, but you build in similar areas.
Yeah.
Now, Tony came on and he had a really good soundbite, which we'll play shortly, about just how he helped the guy out that was struggling with mental health and got all the guys
I
around
heard
him.
that.
Yeah.
That was cool.
And it was like kind of one of those things where it's like, I don't know if this is like the right way to go about it. I haven't read like a mental health book, but the intention was pure. You know, it's like we're going to help our guys out. We're going to
None
be
of
there
us
for them.
have. We deal with it all the time.
Yeah, we don't know how to deal with guys struggling or ourselves struggling. You know, like you got to figure it out.
Yeah, I like that, what he said. It was cool.
Yeah, it was cool. It was
Get
kind
around him, you know.
Get around him, make sure he feels supported.
Yeah.
The clips.
Because it'd be easy to go, get rid of him. Like,
Too hard, you know.
wait. Like,
Yeah.
You know, hold
But he
this
was
up.
ready to fire him, I think. And then he got rid of him. Okay, we got like 3 more awards, I think. 3 or 4 more awards, and then we'll move on. Are you enjoying these awards, Henry?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, is it making you
I
think
think
back
I've
on the
picked- I've picked
episodes?
most of them. Yeah.
How many episodes have you watched? Like 50% of the episodes, 20% of the episodes?
I reckon probably 75%. Yeah, I've watched
Yeah.
a fair few of them.
Did you watch any of the Aussie ones?
I watched the Bondi guy,
Yeah.
and then they're the only ones I haven't caught up. I
Yeah.
mean, the last couple of months have been kind of hectic.
I understand.
But yeah, no, but
I'm just wondering, like from a New Zealand builder's point of view, if you see like Aussie builders coming up, do you kind of go, it's an Aussie builder, I'm not.
no, I don't.
Or do you kinda go,
I sort of think that they probably do not everything on a bigger scale, because that's not true, you know. But it's always cool to see, because Aussie's bigger, you know. And so whenever you hear from someone who's in an industry or whatever that's bigger than yours, they got a different way of thinking. You know,
Yeah.
I think New Zealand does things differently. We're little, so we do it differently. We do it
Yeah.
well. Doesn't mean they're right, but we do it well for us. But I think on the world stage, I'm always fascinated by what Americans are doing, and like Aussies are doing. So like Greyer and those guys. It's cool to see what they're doing. Because I'm like, man, no one's doing that here.
It's very interesting, eh? Like no
I
one's
like
doing
the Aussie stuff.
No one's doing the Greyer model in New Zealand, and I'm trying to get the guys from Grey on. We've been in communication back and forth a little bit, and so there's a few of the sort of high end Aussie guys. Future Flip guy, I'm talking to him a little bit. Neil, trying to get him on as well. But I'll be back next year. Okay, so this one's called the Young Gun Award. So it's kind of like for someone younger. So for a younger builder who operates well beyond their years, delivering exceptional service to their clients while achieving remarkable business success. This award recognises an industry rising star who is paving the way for the future. The Young Gun Award goes to Robbie Stratty from Stratty Building, Sydney-based. Have you listened to that episode?
I haven't.
He's a gun. So congratulations, Robbie, for winning that one. He's actually ironically, the young Builder of the Year, Master Builders New South Wales division, and he's just like one of those guys. It's just like a machine.
Like a Troy.
Yeah. He's like got that level of attitude, but then just a little bit further ahead in terms of like the business itself. High end projects. Everyone that I talked to that's dealt with him has like nothing but good things to say. Had a little bit of had a little bit of a tragedy when he was younger. His dad passed away when he was a young guy, and that had a big impact on his life. That's all in the episode, the podcast episode. Listen to Robbie Stratty's episode. That's really good.
Get that one up.
Yeah, that's definitely on the one. So he's our Young Gun of the Year. Okay, so we got 3 more. Best Banter Award. This award goes to the guests who made their episode the most fun, providing an overall good time. Okay? The guest who brought good vibes from start to finish. The Best Banter Award goes to Marshall Keane from Built by MK. How big of a role has ego played in your career?
Enormous. My first business was actually called Big Decks Australia. It was Big Decks Australia. The slogan on the t-shirt was "Everyone wants a big deck." It was a really successful little business, but I didn't understand business. But I had the cool business cards. I had every bit of merch that you could possibly think of. Singlets that said "Call me if you want a big deck" with my like disgraceful, really.
And also from Big Decks Australia. So Big Decks Australia. He got the good banter. He's a fun guy.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think you and him, you were like on the short list for the best
He
banter.
looked like
award.
100 Bondi guys I've seen.
Yeah.
Like, he could be on Bondi Rescue, working in that club.
You're like,
in that-
I'm sure I've seen you on Bondi
yeah,
Rescue.
he just doesn't he look like 100% Aussie?
110% Aussie. Yeah. He was just like I can't remember what his revenue was. I'll have to listen back to the episode, but he was just like hanging out.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, what's your revenue?" He's like, "I think he might have been like 20 mil or something."
Yeah.
I was like, "Cheapers." It's just like so unassuming.
But
Awesome
it's
guy.
like, he was just relaxed, and it's like I think there's an element of that with Aussies. Like my wife always says it, because she's grew up in America.
Yeah.
So obviously her mum's a Kiwi, and we live here, and she's a Kiwi American, but. Yeah, she's always like, Aussies, like they're just so relaxed. Everyone's like, whatever, like oh, you made 20 million revenue. Yeah, they're like, just gonna go surfing, and like getting all these boys to get their shirts off in the pool and all the, like it's hilarious.
It's so funny, eh?
Yeah.
Like, but it's kind of like what makes you want to be more like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see that guy and you see the guy that's like all business, and you kind of rather be like the guy that's all like kind of chilled and having a good time, because he looks like he's having a good time.
Oh, where I'm from, like on the south coast of New South Wales, like everyone's so chill and relaxed. Like you just cannot get anyone's feathers ruffled.
So where's the south coast of New South Wales? So that's like Sydney, and then what, south? So
Yeah,
south
so
is
it's about-
not Wollongong, right?
way further. So it's about 600 kilometres.
Oh, right. So
It's a
way
solid
down.
drive. Yeah.
Okay,
So
right.
like on a map, you've got like Sydney, Melbourne, and probably Canberra in the middle.
Right,
And
right.
It's kind of straight east from Canberra, I suppose. It's
Okay.
about 2.5 hours drive.
Right. Okay.
Little sort of surfing.
Fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Like
And you would never move back there?
I would.
You would, but
yeah,
like
it's
you
just-
got too much of a foundations
Yeah,
here now.
and my wife's like, she's a scientist, and so I'd like to. It's a fantasy. but
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
now it's
yeah.
a fantasy.
Don't do that again, like blaming Claire that you'd move, but yeah, because she's here, you won't.
Yeah, she forced me at gunpoint. Yeah.
Because of Claire,
No.
we can't do anything
But
fun.
there's definitely that like that Aussie lifestyle of just they're chilled, they're hilarious.
Yep.
Everything's funny. Like it's hard to get them to be serious about anything.
I know, eh? My wife and I,
Like,
I'm not even joking when I say minimum once every 2 weeks, we talk about going to Australia. The only problem is that we don't know where we'd move.
yeah.
So we always go like, Australia's fun, Australians fun, because we're both from South Africa, right? So South Africans are like annoyingly as well, but generally quite loud and quite like out there and not very reserved. And then Kiwis are a lot more reserved, which is cool. But then Aussies are a bit more loud as well. So South Africans and Aussies are probably more similar than South Africans and
Yeah,
Kiwis,
yeah, yeah.
you know? So but like my dad always says, some Aussies have too much confidence and no competence, you know. So it's
Oh,
like,
they're
yeah, that's true too.
overconfident. Aussies are the worst for it.
Because my dad used to work in the mines, and he's
Yeah.
like, these fucking Aussies.
Yeah, yeah.
They just like, the confidence levels are through the roof when they like don't know anything.
Nah.
You
They
know?
they don't need to know it. It's like the old saying, like, you never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Aussies don't give a shit if it's true or not. You know, it's like cheating. It's like, well, cheating's okay if you win. Yeah. It's like, and they'll
we
cheat
love
with
that.
a smile on their face.
Exactly.
Hey.
Yeah. And like Aussies out there, we love it, you know?
Yeah.
So we kind of constantly think about moving there, but, you know, you don't want to go all the way to Perth, too far. And then we actually like the South Australia because we lived there for 3 years, almost 3 years. But then, like, you know, like there's a lot of family there, in-laws there and stuff like that, and, you know, whatever. And then, so then all you got left is like Sydney, Melbourne. Melbourne's too cold.
Yeah.
Sydney's kind of fun, but it's kind of big and like, you know, and then maybe like the northern beaches of Sydney would be fun. And then you've got the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast, which is like super humid and, you know, so it's kind of, everything's got like pros and cons, I guess, you know what I mean?
I reckon that Sunshine Coast, probably like the mid-central coast up to Sunshine Coast, you're a pretty
Was the
safe
way?
bet.
Yeah.
Even like Newcastle and north of Newcastle.
Yeah, I've
that's
thought of that,
beautiful
eh?
up there, and
Yeah.
that's moved on a lot.
Yeah.
It used to be real blue collar.
Right.
Not anymore.
Okay, so we've got 2 more awards. It's getting harder and harder to read these, the more beers I have. I'll be honest with you. Okay, so second to last award for 2024. I hope you guys are enjoying this at the moment on your Christmas day. Or maybe you're listening to this afterwards on Boxing Day, or, you know, it's kind of a good time of the year. It's kind of that nothing time of the year, eh? Between Christmas and New Year. It's sort of like everyone's confused what's going on.
No
'Cause
one judges you for laying on the couch in the middle of the day.
it's super confusing because you're just like charging. It's almost that like you're like that last 2 kilometers of a half marathon or something, and then all of a sudden it's just like you're expected to just like do nothing all of a sudden. You know, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, yeah.
We're all kind of confused about that time, but this is a great time to listen to the Better Builder podcast and watch some movies or something. Okay, so this one's called the most popular audio episode, Henry. So this is you know how we put our episodes up obviously on YouTube. We do our clips on Instagram and TikTok. I don't go on. I'm scared of TikTok. I don't go on there.
Are they getting rid of it?
I think they're getting rid of it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they actually are, but
I don't have it.
I'm a bit scared to go on there. We have like I think we have like 5,000 or 6,000 followers on there or something like that. But, we don't go on there. We just post and ghost. Old Chen post on there for us, and then we get out of there. But okay, so this is for the most. So yeah, sorry, what I was saying is, then we also got our audio episodes, which is like on Spotify, and we just finally solved our Apple Podcast issue we had. We had like an issue for a while. So trying to get that connected. So now finally we're also on Apple Podcasts. So do you ever listen on podcasts on Apple?
Nah, Spotify.
Yeah. Apple's good. Like I do it Spotify now as well. But Apple's also good because it's on your phone and it sort of pops up. It's sort of native to your Apple iPhone if you guys are iPhone users. Okay. So this one's for the podcast episode that captured the most attention and resonated with listeners. This award celebrates the standout audio experience that left a lasting impact. Okay, so the most popular audio episode, which pretty much just means the one that's most watched out of everyone, goes to Nathan Reynolds from Fortified Group. Mm-hmm. You know, you've seen him?
Yep.
Nathan's into like a bunch of stuff that's, he's into like yoga and stuff like that, which, your old school builder would find horrendous. But Nathan's a good guy. I really like him. He's does a lot of like half marathons, and he does some, what is that? Pilates, or what's that thing with the machines?
Yeah, Pilates maybe.
Pilates
yeah,
or
sure.
Reform or something, one of those.
Yeah,
So
right.
he does a lot of that sort of stuff, but a lot of yoga, a lot of like breath work and that sort of stuff. So he's a good lad. So he's got like by far the most episode listens. He was our very first episode as well. So shout out to Nathan for winning that award this year. You'll get your whatever we're doing, certificate or trophy very soon. Okay, so that brings us to our last award of the year. So this is our Better Builder Podcast Guest of the Year 2024 award. Okay. This award goes to a guest who stood out with the most popular episode this year, the highest views across all social media platforms, which equated to about 850,000 views, the most comments about his appearance, received the most insults from social media, while also the most compliments. This guest delivered outstanding insights and an overall unforgettable conversation. The Better Builder Podcast Guest of the Year 2024 goes to Henry Dunham. Henry Dunham Building. That's why you're here today, mate. We got a trophy for you.
It's that's a
Look at that. There you go, mate. Congratulations.
Thanks,
You won the big time award.
Yeah. I like that it got the most insults. I love that everyone got so upset about the odd socks. I love it. It was the best thing I've ever seen.
I wear odd socks.
I wear fucking odd
Am I
socks.
not successful?
I actually put an ad on, like I advertised for a new guy recently, and I did a couple of ads and I did a couple of Instagrams, and one of them I said at the bottom, and also would be good if you had the same socks on or something like that. Like, yeah, I ran with it. Yeah.
Nah, congratulations,
Thank
man.
you.
Like I said, yeah, it's pretty incredible. 800, considering, you're on one episode, and if you count up all your Instagram and LinkedIn, we actually had a little bit of LinkedIn there, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all together, it's like over 850,000 views.
Like, really, it's actually scary when you think of it like that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, very good. So, and there's a lot of good comments on there.
I'm glad I didn't know that
Yeah.
beforehand, because I would have been shitting myself.
Yeah.
Because I came into it, I was like, I don't even know what this is. Like, it took
You
a
were quite
while.
open-minded, to be really
It
honest.
took a while to, I had a few of your emails that I kind of ignored for a while before I actually replied and went like, what the fuck is this, mate? Who are you?
The funny bit is because this was when I reached out to you, we didn't have a podcast. It was just like an idea.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I remember me and the guy that works here in the office, Charles, that works with me. We were just doing like some test episodes, and we took a quick screenshot of me and him, like with mics, and then that was all I sent you. Be like, hey, this is the vibe. I just want to interview some builders, and you were just like, oh yeah, I think you were maybe you got back to me eventually.
Yeah.
And then you were like, yeah, sweet, let's do it. When? And then, which was kind of cool because people didn't know what it was. Yeah. Now it's much easier if you just go check out our Instagram, check out our YouTube, and you can kind of get the vibe.
Yeah.
Listen to a couple of episodes and see if you want to come on. But back then it was incredibly difficult to get anyone on. So,
I think
yeah.
you probably, I was bored, in a way. So it was like, it could be, who cares? And like we've talked about, especially with the grow stuff.
Yeah.
Like I've always hidden, because I always I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about the work we do. So I've never, like I said when we met, I want to be hard to find. I only want word of mouth recommendations, and
Yeah.
you've probably helped me a little bit to go, well, that's cool, but maybe not the best way to market.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So, firstly, congratulations.
Thank you.
Have you read on there? It says your name's on there and everything, mate. So that better be. If I come to your office next time and that's not on your desk, it's going to be fucking.
Yeah.
That's that cost me thousands of dollars.
I might put it on the dash of my car.
It just like bounces around there. It's like, It must be like a singing award or something like that. But we'll call it.
Yeah. I'll take it.
But congratulations. It's a big achievement. No, but let's talk about that because it's very interesting because I've never been a guy that wants to be like a brand, I've never been like, I need to build my brand or anything, it's kind of weird. Like, I don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that guy to be like, hey, I'm Henry.
Well, it's not an industry.
Who wants to be?
We just build houses.
Very few people want to be that guy, wants to be like I don't know what an example is, but like I build my brand and like I'm out there, no one wants to do that. But there's subtle ways of doing it, I've kind of subtly probably built a little bit of notoriety just through the podcast, but without trying, right? And then you said to me last time that you used to be a guy that, because I think this is helpful for builders, Used to be a guy that would be under the radar, don't want to be known. You definitely not signed written, hard to find. And now you kind of changed your tune a little bit. What did you change your mind to, and why do you have a different point of view?
So, like I said I think I said in the podcast, like I've always wanted the work to speak for itself, and I've never really been big on having sign writing and multiple vans on the road and all that stuff. Excuse me. And I've gotten all my work through word of mouth, so it's always worked. And then I think with doing the podcast, I took a lot of thought in doing the podcast because it went against everything. I was like, I don't want to be on a podcast. Like, who wants to hear me speak? And like, and I sound like, and also that fear of being like corny or sounding like a dick. Like there's nothing worse than people who, to me, like the minute you hear someone, you're like, oh, shut up, like who's. And also, I don't like giving people my opinion, and I don't like hearing other people's opinions. So it's like
That's a good thing.
But I always wanted my work to be based on the workmanship and the guys and the team and that, not me. And then I think I've never been big on. I've always had my work photographed by professional photographers, but I've sort of been lazy with doing anything with it. And then I think with Instagram, the world's changed a bit, and instead of paying, 10 years ago, you paid 20 grand for a website, whereas now you can have a Squarespace page or I feel like Instagram's really, the last couple of years has really ramped up. Like I don't touch Facebook. I don't want to know about it. I'm not interested in it. But I feel like Instagram's a really good platform to chuck your stuff up on. And, you've got like all the stuff we got from Ben at Future Context. Like, it's so easy and cheap now to get a guy to come in and shoot some amazing footage and drone footage and, give you clips so you can put on your Instagram. So, I think the world sort of changed a little bit. For me, I've definitely gone, you actually have to get out there, And you want to get, for me, I want to get in front of architects. So I look at, it's a bit like your mate that you're saying about the car salesman, like I don't look at any one client as they're the one I'm going to make my millions off, They're probably only going to do one job or maybe two in their lifetime, I don't know. But then I want to meet architects, I want to work for awesome architects, and I love architecture. So for me, it's like, doing that stuff is, you want to get out to architects because it's visual, it's beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
So that's probably been more the drive, I think, probably since the podcast with you. And then I was like, oh, now I've put my head out there.
Yeah.
But it's been good because, I've had people say, oh, we saw the podcast, we really liked it. It's cool.
Yeah. It's because it's like, don't you think that you talk about notoriety and things like that, but don't you think it's just this is benefit to being known. It's and it sounds weird, because no one wants to be famous or anything like that, but like it's the same as like being known through a network or through a friend of a friend or whatever, right? Being known, it's kind of good. Just more people now know who you are. Yeah. And you've probably found people reached out to you, have a bit of a yarn. I know that there's you kind of got in touch with an architect that we had on, and you building a relationship there. It was just like that's just like a relationship now, but like that you didn't necessarily have before because of different, it's like different touch points. Like I just don't think there's there's nothing bad can come from people knowing who you are.
No.
Yeah. And I think that's probably the big thing, right?
Yeah.
In terms of like, it's not even really, because sometimes people just focus on, I should do more marketing or not do marketing or whatever. But it's like, if you can put yourself in a position where more people know who you are, what you kind of good at, and why you're special, and what you do, like nothing bad can come from that.
Well, it's reputation. What we do is reputation based too. Because you're only as good as your jobs, and you're only as good as your staff. Because no one's naive enough to think I'm going to come and build your house anymore. Like I'm not on the tools that much anymore.
Yeah.
So, it's reputation based, and you want your reputation to be awesome. So things like Instagram and that are great. And this, they're great platforms. But I think like what you mentioned about like John from Matter, you know, like after his podcast, I was like, you know, I've never reached out to people. I'm not good like that. I don't like it. I hate people reaching out to me. And so I'm like, you know.
Especially if it's like in the traditional like networking
Yeah,
kind of
that
vibe,
whole
you know?
networking vibe. If someone
Yeah.
reached out to me like and said, hey man, can you have a look at, you know, help me out with something I'm struggling with, I'll be like, yeah, definitely. Let's have a look at it, you know. But just that sort of cold calling thing is, to me, it's sort of cringy.
Yeah. I get
Other
you.
guys are really good at it, but I'm not a salesman. I just
Yeah.
want to do really good work, and, you know, hopefully more people want to use us because of that. But yeah, so after John was on, you know, I was like, oh, it's genius that Brad's had an architect on, you know. And John's cool. I've known about John for ages.
Yeah, cool guy. Real
So
cool.
I messaged John through Instagram, you know, and I was like, man, you're probably getting bombarded by builders. Like,
Made John's life hell like by
Yeah.
having him on the podcast.
I was like, but, you know, you want to go for a coffee, you know.
Yeah.
And it was cool because we went, and he was like, yeah, man, let's do it.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
And we went out of coffee, and, you know, it was like, I said to you, it's like a first date. You know, it's like, oh, the first date goes really well. Like, is he going to call me back? So, you know, but we had a good yarn, and we probably had, you know, 45-minute yarn, and, you know, we got on really well. And, you know, so,
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't done a project together, you know, yet or anything, or we haven't, you know, but it's just, it's building the relationships, you know.
Yeah, it's super important, and I think and I mean exactly. And so if he had the ability to listen to your podcast, you had the ability to listen to his podcast. Now you kind of know each other on like a bit of a deeper level. It's another reason to reach out. I just think it's benefit, you know, not necessarily talking about the podcast specifically, but I think it's definitely benefit in putting yourself out there, being known rather than not known. You know what I mean?
Well, there's two, and again, it goes back to, you know, like I've always been scared of putting my face out there or my head out there, you know, so to speak. It's like I'd rather the work, and who cares who I am. Whereas, you know, you want to like, I don't know, I feel like with getting out with architects and that, it's actually, especially in New Zealand, it is relational, and it is
100%.
me and
I
you.
would guarantee you right
You
now,
know, it's
that
it's not my company and your company.
Yeah.
It's me and you. You know?
and people would want to work with you. And even like John, you know, like I bet you that he would want to, and I don't know if he wants to, I'm assuming he wants to, but like if he wants to give you a project in the future, I bet you it's because of who you are and that connection, like beyond just the work that you're capable of doing.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of builders, like there's really a lot of builders out there that can build a house really well, properly.
All of them should be able to. Like
On
I said,
time, on budget,
Yeah.
and they've high attention to detail, quality craftsmanship, all the little
Yeah.
lines you want to use.
Yep.
There's a lot of builders that can do exactly that. So what's left?
Yeah.
The only thing that's left is you.
Yeah, yeah.
And so if there's that alignment that you can have with an architect or a client or whatever, I think it's just a benefit of putting yourself out there. I think is really good.
It's like hiring staff. Like,
Yeah.
when I hire staff, like, you could be the biggest rock star in the world, but if you can't pass the beer test, it ain't happening. Like, you've got to get along with the team.
100%.
You know, I'd rather have a guy who's not that good at chippy, who I can train, because, again, chipping's not that hard. I'd rather train a guy who everyone really likes and get along with, you know. And, I mean, that goes both ways too.
Yeah.
But, you know, yeah, you've got to be able to pass the beer test, because you've got to get along, especially if you start building a house with someone that's 2 or 3 years, you know.
Yeah.
Like that's a marriage. Like, you're going to go through ups and downs, no matter
Yep.
what. No matter how well it goes, you're going to have days where the client's pissed off and you cop it, or you're pissed off, and, you know, there's going to be ups and downs. So, yeah, you know, the personalities in the team is critical, you know. And I think that's, you know, that's been one thing I've probably changed my viewpoint on in the last 12 months. Like you got to reach out to people and push out of your comfort zone and like talk to other architects. I think, to be honest, with the market changing has forced me to go, like in 12 months, we haven't got a job booked in that we would usually have booked in by now. It's always been kind of plain sailing, pretty easy. It's like, all right, we're flat out at the moment, probably flat out till the middle of next year, but now you got to like start thinking about it. And then it's like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
You know, you reach out to architects, but then you don't want to just cold call them because they'd get cold called by people all the time. So it's like, who do I know that knows that architect? Or, you know, you got to start working, you know, and I've never done that before. So that's all, you know, that's a new field to me.
I think, because I think I resonate with you there as well, where it's like, you've seen the way that some people do it and you kind of put off by it, so you just don't do any of it.
Yeah.
Once you realise that there's different ways of doing it, then you realise that, okay, I actually can reach out to an architect, but if I do it in like a little bit more of a unique way or have a bit more nuance or a bit of, you know, less sort of salesy, like cold calling, like, you know, 20 architects and just like throwing mud at the wall. If there's a bit more nuance around it and you're a bit more thoughtful about how you reach out to them, and then you actually could do it in your own way. Yeah. You don't have to do it in a sort of cheesy way like a lot of people do.
You just need to get them. You just need to have a coffee. Just go, can we go for a coffee?
Yeah.
And, you know, like, it's funny because I've met with a few architects recently. I've met with some like well-known architects, you know, and they're this kind of people I've probably always thought, like, there's no way they would talk to me and there's no way you would get a foot in the door. And then you meet them and they're actually really normal and really nice. Yeah. And they're like, positive as. This sounds super fun. Let's do something, you know. And it's like, that was easy. You know, like, so, you know, I think we probably, builders are scared of the big name architects or, you know, or just architects because they're like the cool guys and we're the dirty guys, you know. But yeah, it's this year's been really cool in that the architects I've caught up with and met, like, I haven't had one negative experience. They've all been really positive. Just been cool.
Yeah,
really
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you as well, like, to change tack a little bit. You know, the New Year's coming soon. This year's done. Are you a guy that like goal sets? Do you set goals? Are you a guy that like write down goals and, you know, you get people that kind of talk about like visualization and like, you know, all that sort of jazz. Are you that guy? Like, how do you do it? Like, do you just sort of like, whatever happens? Like, what's your sort of approach?
Yeah, I wing it big time. Always have.
Yeah.
I've always flown by the seat of my pants, big time. Which I'm married to a scientist, so you can imagine it.
You gotta have the yin and the
yang. She's like, Henry, should we plan what we're doing tomorrow? And I'm like, let's just see what happens when we wake up.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm married to a wife that's very like task orientated.
Yeah.
She just won't stop, and you know, like every night it's just like, I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm baking a cake for tomorrow because we got, or like I'm sorting this or I'm organising that for the kids. I'm sorry, you know, it's just never ending. I'm just like, can you just stop? Like, but so I could definitely resonate with you there. So you just sort of, so every year, so next year starts. Are you starting to get into a mindset of like what you want next year to look like, or do you just sort of like, is your goal just shutting off over Christmas, like going like, you know, when you push the old like power button on the Mac just to like,
I do that definitely. Like if I get a phone call from someone between now and the 13th of January, they're going to get a pretty short, sharp, blunt reply.
I'm at the beach. Okay,
but I've always been pretty honest with my clients. Like I always say to them, like, you know, I've got 3 little kids and I'm, you know, big on the family. So like I'm yours from 7 till 5, but do not call me after 5 o'clock. Like, because I ain't your man after 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm big on that. And it's cool because if you do that up front, I've never had a client who's had a problem with that. They've always been like, oh, okay, no worries. You know, because a lot of the clients we work with are high functioning. They'll email you at midnight, you know. I just set the bar up front, you know, like I ain't doing it, you know. I'm yours, we'll do whatever you want. We'd hang your washing out for you between 7 and 5, but don't call me.
And were you like that since day one, or did you have to learn?
I've learned that.
Yeah.
But I've only learned it since I had kids, you know. I learned that from, you know, doing 80 hours a week, coming home and doing pricing at night and stuff, and then you have kids and then you can't do that anymore, and then, you know, suddenly you're on holiday and you're taking phone calls and your wife's saying, come on, let's go, and you're saying, oh, I just got to talk, I just got the client on the phone, and, you know, it's not good for your brain, it's not good for anything, you know.
Yeah.
You can't keep that up. So, yeah, so the answer to your question was, I definitely, the shutdown, I'm like...
And then when do you start thinking, like, do you kind of go, because I remember like I used to be the guy, it was like the first week was kind of like just shutting down from the year. and then you kind of get into the second week of holiday and you start to slowly start thinking about the year ahead because you sort of had that week of just like, nothing. Are you kind of like that as well? When do you start thinking about like the new year and what you want to achieve? Do you have like a rough idea in your head of like, hey, 2025 is coming up. This is kind of what I want to achieve, or what do you kind of think? Are you just kind of like, you just have that number in mind of like, this is how much I need to quote per month to be able to live my lifestyle? Like,
No, that comes with, that's like that comes with the work. So that was an exercise in needing, flipping it around so you're not spending what you're not earning.
Yeah.
But mine's more about the projects and the clients. The money comes after it. I'm more like, I just want to keep pushing. Like, I want to do bigger, we built that house in Herman Bay that you came to.
Yeah.
That was
Amazing.
like I said, the swimming pool cantilevers off the cliff. It's pretty cool.
It's good as it gets, essentially.
So for me, I'm like, I want to do a big one. I want to do, like I love it. If I see a job with a house that's got crazy piles and deep foundations and cedar work and complicated detailing, like that's the bigger the better, and I love that stuff. So I more think about, I want to meet cool new architects. I want to take on new cool big projects that challenge us, and the rest comes with it.
Yeah.
So, that's probably, if I was to say, if you said, have you got any goals for next year, is to definitely like cultivate relationship with more architects, push the boundaries in what we work on, the work we do, always get better, I suppose. I mean, I played golf up at TRI recently. It was the first time I'd been up there, and yeah, that like blew my mind. It was crazy, we haven't got anything else in New Zealand like that. I've seen some cool stuff in New Zealand, but it's like a whole nother level. Like, I text John Irving after it, and I was like, mate, like, I get it now. Like, that's mad. That's like another
So
world.
you're originally like quite like hesitant to take on a project at TRI because it's so far away and you have to set up a whole new team up there. Are you a bit more open now to like taking on a project up there, or are you still sort of like...
Yeah, only because I always care. I'm always about the guys. So I'm like, we've had jobs in Waiheke where I've turned down because I'm like, I don't want my guys, having to deal with going to Waiheke. Like, I want them to be able to, a lot of my guys, you got young kids. So,
Right.
It hasn't suited to work away, and we haven't needed to too.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, you look at TRI and you're like, yeah, this is it's sort of set the bar. Like, it's like if you've done a house at TRI, I mean, they're just stunning houses. They're just, A, the scenery's beautiful, B, the houses are beautiful. The architects are doing amazing work up there.
Yeah.
And the whole vibe, you can tell it's American run. I mean, whether you like Americans or not, and American politics, but holy heck up there, like, Americans know how to put on a show.
Yeah. I've never been up there, but I've heard a lot of good things, like the fact that it's so premium, but also has like a real, like, especially the main club or restaurant is very like relaxed, and it's not too like,
Yeah, like the guy that took us, he got us a caddy. It was just amazing. He was this great guy. He was like 58 or something. His name was Smokey. He lived in Mangawai. He's retired. He caddies and goes fishing. He was. He said, he goes, Henry, if there's anything wrong with my life, I haven't found it yet. That's what he said to me. But
so he'd be getting some sweet tips and like just getting paid,
Must be. But he was a great dude. He was awesome. But he was saying that, he said, because we asked him, said, well, can we take beers in the course? And he's like, mate, like, you've paid the fees. Like, this is your course. You can do whatever you want. Like, and that's the attitude. It was cool. And all the staff were just, what can we get you? Can we bring it to you? How would you like it? There was no like, it's on a golf course, you got to have a collared shirt. And, like, it was really cool. It was
yeah.
cool. The whole
it's
vibe
almost
up
like
there.
it almost had like a Kiwi mentality on an American facility.
It was
almost.
cool.
Yeah.
But the whole vibe up there was cool. It was like, this is, it's that level of playing field that you want to be part of. It's like any beautiful build, again, like it's that build. Like we'll build anything for anyone. Like, I'll build a deck and a fence and a pergola for someone. But the key is as long as they're fussy about it being done well and they're good people. They're my two sort of like, I want to work for good people who enjoy the project, which is not developers.
Yep.
It's the opposite of a developer.
You want someone who cares, gives a shit.
Yeah. And I want them to be fussy about the end product. Otherwise, why use us? Just go get some shithead from down the road who's going to balls it up. It'll be cheaper.
Yep.
You know. And so, like, but that whole level of playing field of what's going on up there, it's like, wow. You know, that's the Herne Bay of Northland.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. It's really
It's
cool.
really cool up there, right? So is there a lot more opportunities up there?
I don't really know. Yeah, I've always sort of like avoided it, to be honest. Not avoided it, but I've just not chased it. I've always been like, why build a house there when you can build one in Herne Bay? You know.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think too, it's you know, it's the architects. Like you look at all the architects that are doing houses up there. Like they're all unreal architects, like Patterson's and John Irving and like Fahrenheit. Like they're cool. They just do cool work.
Has John done anything up there from Matter? I don't know if he's done anything up there.
I don't know if John's done anything up there. I know Mark.
There's like a few good architects
Yeah.
up there.
Like we do quite a lot of work with Mark from MDS, who you met.
Yeah.
I think he might have drawn
man.
one up there and it didn't go ahead. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool place. It's really cool.
Do you think I should get Mark on the podcast?
The big fella, he might be on. You'd probably have to put the beers on for him. He'd probably like that.
We should probably do one at his bar, doesn't he? He owns the bar,
he owns
right?
the bar, yeah. He's a good architect to work for.
He's a good man.
He's
actually.
a good architect to work for. He set the bar with me of that. He was the first architect I worked for that I was like, he's not on the client side. He's like all about the team.
Yeah.
And he's the one that first introduced me to sort of going, you don't have to win this job on price. You have to win it on personality.
Yeah.
You know, like their job in Herne Bay. I think I told you about that. Like I think I walked out of that job I walked out of that interview and I'd never seen the plans. It was purely a conversation with the client on who you are, what are you into.
So you've never, let's talk through this. So you went so the architect, Mark, introduced you to the client. You went and sat down. What did you have? Nothing.
No. He just said...
You were just like, did you know the scope of it? Did you know that it was going to be like a...
He just said, I've got a client in Herne Bay. It's a substantial build. He wants to meet with a couple of builders. Just come in and be there at 3 o'clock or whatever. Come and have a chat. And
what was the chat?
It was, who are you? What do you do? We walked around the site. We had a bit of a look. What's an Aussie doing in New Zealand? It was a chat.
Right.
It was a chat.
And did he ask you what have you done? Have you done anything similar to this? What did you say?
None of us had done anything similar to that because it was massive.
Yeah. So did he ask you that?
But it was more
or no?
just what have you done? How I'd done a couple of projects with Mark and MDS by that point, which was good. I think that probably might have been an advantage. But mind you, I think the other two had as well. But it was just a casual chat with him and his wife, and Mark was there.
Right.
And then it was hilarious because I walked up the driveway, and another builder was walking down the driveway, and I know him. And he was like, how was that? And I was like, yeah, all good, mate. And then I drove around the corner, and there was the other builder was sitting around the corner in his car.
Just waiting. It's
And
like
it was
a
back to
line
back.
of builders.
But then it was right. They want to work with you, so you price it. And it was cool because you could do fair, honest pricing without having to freak out about who was going to be the cheap guy. Because, that's a massive bee in my bonnet is if you get 3 builders to price a job and pick the cheapest one, you know.
Comparing apples and oranges.
Well, it depends, my fear is that one will be so cheap, they'll go with it, and it's impossible. Because at the end of the day, the 3 builders, they're all going to take the same amount of time to build it if they're in the same calibre, So really what they should be looking at is your hourly rates.
Yeah.
Really, But, sorry, back to what I was saying. Like, I think, Mark, he really pushes that. And I've had a number of jobs now through MDS where I've met with a client and I know the other builder's either coming or he's been, it's the same conversation.
And do you think that's
And I've
the
lost
difference?
a few too where they've said, no, they want to go with the other builder. We had one where they went with the other builder because he was more their age, like it's sort of boomer age. And then 12 months down the track, that builder turned around and went, I'm actually too busy to do it. And they came back to me and said, can you do it? So,
Right.
But again, it's just a good process because it kind of rules out that whole win the job on tender.
Yeah. So do you think that so then obviously in that upper end, whatever you want to call it, 2 more plus or 3 more plus, whatever, do you think of the upper end it's more the personality, the person, where the lower end is more the price?
Yeah. I mean, if you're doing a little renovation and adding on a room, like an extension to a house, sure. But I mean, again, like if you get 3 prices, they're probably only going to be a couple of grand within,
Yeah.
If you're up in the upper end where, I mean, I don't know. If you're within, the $500,000 difference over a big project, it's quite a lot. But at the end of the day, the scope of work, like the subcontractors are all going to be pretty similar. So I think the more honest chat would be that the architect or the clients actually review the margin that they're going to put on the job.
Yeah.
And the hourly charge out rates. Because if you've got a big company who's got huge overheads who have to be charging a carpenter out at $100 an hour, and it's going to be a 3-year project, versus a building company such as myself or probably a Willie Garucci or whatever, any of those guys who've been on your podcast, Matt from Intact, I bet they're all the same, who are probably charging their carpenters out at 65 or 70, like, because they don't have overheads, like it's a no-brainer. Like, why on earth would you go with one of those big-name building companies when building companies who have got 10 to 15 guys can do the exact same size calibre project?
Yeah.
I mean, we're all going to use Contract Landscapes or someone for the piling. We're all going to use, we all use the same shotcrete guys for the pool and, So the money savings not in the subcontractors, and it's not materials. Like materials is a tiny number on paper. People always get caught up in the cost of materials. If they go up or down 1%, or, you go between Places, Carters, ITM, Mitre 10, I mean, I could go and get rates from all 4 of them today on a stick of 90 by 45 framing timber. They'll be within a few cents of each other.
Yeah.
What's the point? It's a waste of time. Labour rates, if you've got a big company who are charging out a chippy at $100 an hour versus a company that's charging a chippy at 65, that will blow a budget real fast. So that to me is what they should be looking at. So you've got these guys building these $10 million houses, that should be all on personality and relationship.
Yeah.
That's key. That's the key to that being a successful project.
Yeah. And I agree with you at that upper end market. And that's why I keep saying to people, now builders may not know how to do it, but that's why I keep saying, if it's about, if you want to sort of work on more of that, on that upper end market, it becomes more about you.
Yeah.
And in the perfect world, you'd sit across from someone like we are now, and you can explain to them who you are, like you did in that meeting with that Herne Bay client. But what if there was a way to scale that? What if there was a way to do that without you sitting there? And that's where we always recommend some sort of either some sort of video content or something where you can actually show who you are beyond sitting in front of them. Do you know what I mean? Mm. And I think that's where, I think that's where kind of builders kind of miss it sometimes. They kind of go, it's not, that's just sort of like fluffy stuff, like creating that stuff is just fluffy stuff. But you really want to lean in on who you are. Because I bet you, I talked to a friend of mine the other day, a really high achiever, kind of successful guy. And he said to me, mate, if I'm looking to build my dream home in 5 years' time, I'm just going to be looking at you. I'm just going to be listening to your podcast. Mm. And I'll choose 3 builders from your podcast, and I'll have a go over check. You know what I mean? So it's kind of very interesting, but why? Because he wants to get a bit of a deeper understanding of who's this person, what's their personality, what's their vibe. It's like that alignment thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's super important. So you kind of have changed your mind, this year?
A little bit, yeah.
So next year for you is about working on better projects, getting in touch with more architects. Do you have a plan of getting in front of more architects, or is this going to be the same old, be authentic, reaching out to them?
It's probably just reaching out to reaching out to ones who I can have a point of contact with. Like, it's actually funny when you start talking to your previous clients.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, yeah, we go to dinner all the time with so-and-so. And you're like, what do you mean? What do you tell me? Like, so
Yeah.
it's, and I think too, I've been doing this for a long time, so I've got that network. Like if you were new and just starting out, you might not have that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, my plan for next year is, we got 2 good projects on at the moment that we're working pretty hard to finish, and just do more of that networking thing, and open up new relationships really, which is cool. It's good.
Yeah.
It's exciting. Yeah, because there's some good architects out there, man. We're so lucky in New Zealand with the architects we've got.
We've
They're
got
cool.
amazing architects.
And
in
like
New
the
Zealand.
work we do is cool,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually really cool on a world stage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny because to come back to that point of that car salesman, I kind of have that approach is so good. It's like, don't figure out like who am I going to work with now, but like one of the next project, not now. 'Cause even the other day I was catching up with John from Matter, and it was so nice because like we were catching up for a coffee, and like I have no business reason for meeting up with him, and he's got no business purpose for meeting up with me. And we were just hanging out, and we ended up hanging out for like 2 hours, and then by the end of it he was like, mate, I gotta like go live my life, I got work to do, we gotta go. But we were like hanging out for 2 hours, but you don't know what 3 years from now what comes from that. You don't know if there's some sort of crossover, some opportunity, something. Like I think it's good, and I think it's good to just kind of meet with people like that as well, even if there's no sort of reason.
Yeah.
Just to kind of build that relationship and catch up, and it doesn't have to be like a big reason behind catching up. You know what I mean?
Well, it's just building relationships, and I think too, like you get a misconception of people, especially here in New Zealand. Like you look at, say, a really well-known architect, and you think, oh, they're so good, they're going to be snobs, or they're going to be whatever.
Yeah.
But then you meet them, and you're like, oh, they're just like normal Kiwis, just like us.
Yeah.
It's like the client at Herne Bay. Like he's so daunting because he's so successful, but he's such a good dude. He's like such a good bloke. He's like short and sharp. He doesn't take much bullshit, but he's such a good guy. But he's a sort of bloke, you could have a round of golf with him if you didn't know him, like fill in a foursome or something, have a round, and he could be anything from a plumber to whatever, a multi-millionaire, and he's just cool. Cares heaps about you and your family, and, it's
That's
like,
cool.
yeah, like I think that's one good thing about Kiwis is they're so down to earth that I think we have these misconceptions about these cool architects, say, for a builder like me, or, that they're unapproachable and they're scary and they're never going to talk to you. And it's actually like, they're like, they're probably winging it too. Like,
Yeah.
a little bit,
So true, eh? And,
Yeah.
and once you've sit in front of someone, it's very different, eh? You kind of have this, preconceived ideas.
And
And
they
people
want to be around good builders too, because like there's no architect wants to spend a year or two designing a beautiful house and then have a builder come in and balls it up. That just makes them look bad.
For sure.
They don't want to have that horrible chat where the builder's like, well, it's gone over budget because his plans weren't good enough. So again, it's that team. It's got to be a good team.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that, like I was saying before about Mark from MDS, like he's always been real big on the team.
Yeah.
He'll be the first one to go, Henry, that's a balls up. Or he'll be the first one to say to the clients, nah, that's not how we drew it, but it's fine. That looks really good too. Like it's cool.
Yeah.
It opened my eyes to like, it's not the architect and the builder, the architect and the client versus the dodgy builder who's trying to rip them off. Like it used to sort of have that vibe.
Yeah. It's more collaborative now. Everyone
Now
works
it's
together.
like we all need help,
Yeah.
And I think too, there's, you can't. Well, there's nothing worse than when I hear builders complaining about architects and their plans, and they're like, oh, there's no details, and it's like, yeah, but they're not builders. Like they're architects. They're like, that's a pretty picture.
Yeah.
It's your problem how you're going to build it.
Yeah.
We got to put the nuts and bolts together,
And half the time it's a cool problem to solve. Like
Cool problem to
it's
solve.
a cool problem to solve because
Yeah.
because no one's more practical than a builder. No one can bring that level of skill. So then that's when you can shine.
Yeah, yeah. It's not the architect's job, you know, it's the builder's job. But if you have that collaboration thing going on, then you work it out together rather than if you do the tender process. Like that's the perfect world in a tender process for you to go, oh, no allowance for that because it wasn't in. No allowance for, tag out that because it wasn't, it just creates issues down the track,
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole, I just don't understand it. I don't get it, and I don't want to know about the whole fixed price tender process because you have to win it on price.
Yeah.
You have to find holes in it. And, you hear people say it's not about what's included, it's about what's excluded.
Yeah.
If you went to a restaurant and that was the game, like at the end they gave you a bill and said, "Oh no, but that was excluded in the contract."
In the potatoes,
80-page contract at the back, you'd be like, "Whoa, I thought there was potatoes in it." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's just a sticky conversation.
You do get that sometimes with the steakhouses that way. You're just like, oh no, it's like salad, no salad, and so that's just a steak, mate. $60, that's just a steak.
Yeah.
No, man, I appreciate you coming on. Merry Christmas. Have a good break. You deserve it.
Yeah, thank you.
And Merry Christmas to the family,
Yep,
Claire and the
you
fam
too.
and the
Yep.
kids.
Yep.
And I really appreciate it. And congratulations on winning Guest of the Year.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah,
a
it's
very it's a
big
very prestigious
We'll
award.
be going straight to the pool room.
Straight to the pool room, mate. Straight to the pool room.
Jousting sticks.
In jousting sticks. Love it. Australian reference there for you guys, for you Aussie listeners. We know it.
If you get it, you get it.
Yeah, exactly. No, I really appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate you doing the second episode or whatever it was initially, because that's what got the ball rolling
Yeah, thank
for
you.
us. So that helped Better Builder to kind of get the ball rolling. So those early guys, and we really appreciate it. We also, I just want to do a quick shout out to our sponsors throughout the year. We got our content partner Bodo. To be honest, those are like the coolest guys ever.
Yeah.
They've just said to me, mate, because no business has endless budgets, and Abodo didn't even have it in their budget. Like I met with Dan, the CEO, and it was just like, mate, we want to be involved, we want to help you out, and they made it happen. So I really appreciate those guys, Sarah, Rachel, for making that happen. We had Rave Build, who was our audio sponsor for a while as well this year. Not anymore, so we have a sponsorship opening there, but they helped us out significantly as well. So if you guys are looking for building software, check out Rave Build. It's worth doing the demo just to see what they have to offer, because they've helped a lot of builders in New Zealand specifically, and then Builders Academy as well. I don't know if you've seen, we've done a few like apprentice episodes as well throughout the year. Without our sponsors, and then finally the listeners, thanks guys for listening in for the year. We really appreciate it. Honestly, I super appreciate it. This is really just me, and I got Chen, and I got sometimes Dan. Dan's not really involved. Dan does more like gross stuff. Dan just like, he makes a big mess of the gross stuff, and he just comes and helps out sometimes. I'm just joking, Dan. But yeah, Chen, we have Chen here, and it's just me. So we're not a big, sometimes we do compete with like the big guns out there in terms of a media, we're essentially like a media company, but it's just us, and we want to be connected to the builders. So thanks to everyone who listens in, who gets value out of it. Really appreciate it. And obviously without you guys, Henry, you and the other guests, we can't really do this, if I had to come sit here and just yarn, no one would listen. So appreciate you coming on as well, man.
You appreciate you for doing it, and all the guys who've come on. I've learned a lot. It's real
that's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, you've had some good builders on this.
Yeah, that's cool. And next year we're going to continue it. Want to do more New Zealand, like South Island and regions. Want to do more Australian builders as well. So I also am winging it like Henry, and we'll figure it out next year. And
all winging
well, have a Merry Christmas, man.
Yeah. You
Cheers.
too. Cheers.
Till the new year.